Hello and welcome, everybody. I'm your host, Agent Q, brought with my other co-host today, Yukikaze.
Yukikaze.
Or, what is God damn it. Sorry. Yuki.
Hi everybody, I'm Yuki of Yukikaze Gaming.
I told you it would be scuffy.
That's alright. We embrace this stuff.
Yes, we do, because there's no choice. And today we're going to try to go over some of the new anime coming out this season. Well, I'll go over some of the ones that have already been out, and other ones which are well, I'm totally tongue-tied myself there. Anime that have come out in the rankings of them so far this season.
Yes,
And how good or bad it is.
Discussion.
Just gonna let me flounder there for a second.
So previously, we discussed the new anime early in the season when some of them still hadn't aired yet, and just whichever ones we'd managed to catch thus far. And so this will be kind of our follow-up discussion where we check in to see how things have been progressing, anything new that we've picked up, anything that we have dropped or decided we don't want people to see, or rather that we wouldn't recommend that people watch, and do a quick tier list to help visualize where we feel everything kind of stands this season. For background, for anyone who didn't catch this last time, this is only brand new series, so it doesn't include sequels or things that started in previous seasons, OVAs, movies, or otherwise continuations of like established franchises. The one kind of thing that did make the list was the Konosuba Spin-Off this time around, only because Konosuba doesn't. It's not really like a perennial anime, and this is technically its own series. So I let that make the list.
Yeah, prequel spin-off side, and the character is extremely popular, so hard not to add that one to it. Okay. But starting us off, why don't we get to our first big anime of the night? What is first on the list there?
First on the list is one that you introduced last time, the Sacrificial Princess.
Now, so far, this has been a fairly. I have read the light novel on this one, or not light novel, manga on this one. So I am a bit more hyped for it than I would normally say. Overall, I have been happy with the story. What's been your thoughts on it so far?
This one was a recent pickup for me that I did partly because you had brought it up during the last stream. And it definitely gives me similar vibes to a few other series that we've had recently, especially the one that we had last season. But I haven't gotten very far, so I can't say too much about the story. What I will say, though, is I feel that it has kind of a somber tone and setting to it that is sort of undermined by the somewhat goofy character designs of the more furry-oriented characters in it. I feel like, and of course this is something that adapts from the manga, but if they had gone with designs that were more suited to the tone of the series, I don't think it would have kind of undermined the setting as much. So for me, that definitely docked it points. Like, I would have liked to see those characters be less goofy. If what you're trying to do is have them be like morbid and scary or something, then lean into that more. Or if you're trying to have them be, more kind of relatable and attractive, then, there's another direction you can go there with them being maybe cuter or something like that. But as it stood, I feel like the character designs were just a little bit lacking and a little bit ham-fisted when it came to the animal characters, and there's a lot of them.
It's only 99.9% of the cast. I think there's
Yeah.
one human character. I question for you. How far are you in this anime? Exactly.
Again, not very far. I think I'm only in episode 2 so far.
Okay, that I will say that you only get introduced to technically 5 because Sai and Klops are technically 2 different characters, but they are kind of one. So 4 to 5, depending on how you want to count it. With being the king, the titular princess, once again, her adorable sidekicks, Sai and Klops, which are blobs, and the I don't want to say antagonist, but driving force behind the show, Anubis, currently the advisor to our vizier advisor.
Well, a vizier is a type of
Secretary?
advisor.
Yeah, to the king, which I would say 3 and 4 start introducing a lot more characters that are more mainstays and more base designs. On a side note, if you are a furry watching this, you probably don't care too much and are probably absolutely loving all the great designs in a lot of the show. Although I will say it is a very somber tone. It is a slow paced show. This is not, oh, here's high action, here's high drama, it's going to be very down to earth a lot of the I shouldn't say down to earth. It's still a very fantasy show.
Yeah, very high concept fantasy.
Yeah.
But very grounded in, I would say, human feeling relationships.
It's a character story, not a world story.
Yeah.
You're there between the King of Beasts and the Sacrificial Princess. The name does get that quite right, and it's everyone they have to interact with at that point too. And what a love story between what these 2 people would be is.
Yeah, and I feel that they did do well with that part. But again, I feel like just the character designs kind of undermine even that aspect of it a little bit too. There's a piece there that I can't really discuss without spoilers too, which is unfortunate. But suffice to say that there is an element there where the character designs and art can actually show up as being much prettier. Again, when the characters are more human, such as the main character. The problem, though, is because most of them aren't, it just makes it stand out even more how kind of poorly rendered those designs are.
Like I said, it's one of those you're only just opposed with a bunch of support characters and the king and the princess. Anubis stands out as a pretty well done character, and I especially do love a lot of the Beast King and Princess. Like when it's only them in shot, they do have a good dynamic together and how they fit in both size and proportions. I feels like.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
Yeah.
So
it almost has a reverse dog feel to me.
reverse dog.
The human's usually bigger holding the dog. This time it's the dog holding the human.
Oh, I see where you're going with that. Well, but the Beast King is really more of a lion sort of character than a dog.
Yeah, I'll give it that. It's just I think a cat feels. I don't see people that doesn't like their cats quite as much as they do their dogs.
I'm dubious. I suppose it depends on the cat and the person.
That is also true.
Okay. So for me personally, I think at the moment the series is sitting at kind of like a B for me. It definitely has some potential. The story could end up outshining the minor art nitpicks that I have. But I haven't gotten deep enough into it yet to fully feel if it's got the potential to go the distance, so to speak.
Yep, no, I can definitely understand. B is definitely where I would hold this. A is this is a slow burn story to begin with, and even I think it's 2 weeks behind. So I think we're only 4 or 5 episodes in at this point, and it's still only just picking up. I think even at this point in the story, they've only added, what was it, 3 more characters, which is going ahead in the story. There isn't much more, but no, B feels like a good spot for that, especially now.
Okay, sounds like we're pretty much in agreement on that one. Next up on the list is one that we didn't discuss last time. This one I hadn't even realized was a part of this season's anime when we did our last episode. The Japanese is Jigo Koraku, which in the English is Hell's Paradise.
Yeah, the sad part is, I remember watching the trailer for this one and actually looking forward to it, but only realizing it came out this season when I saw it on this list about 5 minutes ago.
Oh no! I had actually mentioned this one as an example pretty early on of the ones that we hadn't caught in our original discussion. But yeah, this one, the animation in it is fantastic. It definitely has, strong shonen battle vibes with some really, really good, combat choreography. And it feels like it has a kind of an interesting world that it's starting to build. My only real gripe so far is that the central plot hook makes absolutely no sense. So if you can enjoy it just for the visual spectacle and ignore the fact that it makes absolutely no sense for them to be sending people in to do this job, then only to be escorted by much more powerful people who are capable of easily killing them at any time in order to make sure that they do that job, then you'll have a good time with this one, I think. But if you get hung up on that plot point.
Yeah, that was in the central description of it, so I think you can discuss that point on it. I remember that in the trailer or the synopsis.
Yeah, that one's not really a spoiler at all. It's something that's revealed, like, not even that far into episode 1, really. But basically, the basic synopsis is these characters are kind of like death row inmates that are being sent to, find this, like, elixir of immortality. And they are being sent with these executioners as escorts that are all capable of murdering them at any time to keep them in line. But if you've got people that powerful and they're going there anyway, why aren't you just having them do the job?
Yeah, that was a consensus I remember seeing. It was just like, why? But unfortunately, like I said, somehow this has just slipped my brain repeatedly on that, so unfortunately, this would have to be the do not watch for me. But where would you be ranking this?
So far, I haven't gotten too far into it because I just recently picked it up. But I am leaning towards like an A for this one. Despite the obvious plot hole, I feel like it does a really good job of distracting you from that with the visual spectacle, and it's clearly not really about the story so much as it is about the combat and the emotions that drive the characters. So I feel like that kind of downplays the importance of that plot hole. Not enough for it to go up to S tier, but I think it's, if you like shonen anime, it's definitely one to watch this season.
Okay, yep. Probably would be S if they didn't have that big old gaping plot hole episode 1.
Quite possibly it could find its way up there if not for that, yes. Okay, next up is one of the ones that you brought to the table last time around. And I'm trying to remember the name of it.
Magical Destroy, or Mahou Shoujo Magical Destroy in Japanese.
Yes, correct. Yes, Mahou Shoujo Magical Destroyers. So my take on this is, much as you kind of observed last time around, the animation is definitely there. It's weird, it's quirky, it's inconsistent in all the right ways, if that makes sense. Like that kind of style that just breaks its own mold all the time. rather than being errors.
Yep.
And definitely has a lot of good action, some comedy. It does get really weird though. So if you don't like random nudity and sex jokes, or you don't like, um, something that goes kind of very like acid trip, then this one might not be to your tastes.
The best way I've just heard this described, and I completely agree, is this is an old guy neck style anime. This is that 90s, early 2000 guy neck style.
Yeah, it's very reminiscent of like Fooly Cooly, in terms of its sort of character interactions and plot. Um,
I would almost
and
go more panty and stocking.
yeah, it's got some of that element to it too. Meanwhile, the plot itself is kind of like a library wars situation or something like that, where it's a kind of culture clash against censorship, so to speak.
Yep. A general ban on all otaku culture, which is an interesting thing to go because a lot of these ones that do try to do censorship only go, oh no, only this one thing is bad. This does go for a general consensus of, hey, if you're into something way too much, it's probably not a good thing.
Yeah, it very much censoring not just anime or something like that, but the very idea, the very concept of enjoying something so much that it becomes like a passion of your soul. And and anything that might make a normie uncomfortable because you are too into that thing, whether it be cars or anime or Gundam models or whatever, um, that is now illegal.
Yeah, I think the best translation would be fan culture.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, for me, I am an old school otaku, or an old taku, if you will. I grew up on all those 90s ultra violent, crazy. What am I watching? Why does this not make sense? But what God do I love it? So
Oh
for me,
yeah.
this is A, if not S tier for me.
Yeah, I think I'm not super far into it. But I definitely think it definitely sits pretty comfortably at A tier. Depending on where it goes, it could maybe become an S tier. Like I feel like I need to see how it plays out before it can kind of make that jump.
Yep. Now, how far have you gotten? I'm sorry to ask this again, but
Oh,
because
no
there
problem.
there are
I think I got through 3 episodes so far.
all right, because there is a significant plot twist starting with 6, and I know there already have been some major fan theories because a lot of old taku are definitely, hey, this is a guy neck style anime. There's going to be a crazy, convoluted, oh my gosh, what the hell twist at the end.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely got far enough to see some stuff that was a very, very clear reference to like Evangelion, um, as what like not just in terms of what they were showing, but also the art style around it, and the way that it animated. That they managed to capture that feel, which was very interesting to see, combined with the fact that it was like a total joke bit thing that they were showing.
Yeah.
um, so
Though I
yeah.
will say that
Mhm.
this also is a hard, I won't say hard R, but definitely TVMA. Viewer discretion is highly advised on this one, and be prepared to get, well, messed up. If you've ever done hard drugs, you know this how this anime plays out.
Yeah, so my warning from the beginning definitely stands. If you don't enjoy like really acid trippy kind of stuff or random nudity and sex jokes, then this definitely is not for you.
Yep. But okay. What do we have next on the list?
Next up is one of the several isekai anime from this season. The Japanese is Isekai Shokan wa Nidome Desu, or in English, Summoned to Another World for a Second Time.
Okay, yep. I just finished catching up with this one today. So this one's very fresh in my mind.
Yeah. I am. I mean, the image that they give here makes it look a lot more impressive than it actually is in the show. I would say this has some of the worst animation quality that I've seen this season.
Really, you're saying that this season, knowing what's later on this list?
Yes. I certainly am. Yeah, among the shows this season, it definitely stands out as being in the lowest tier of animation quality and character designs.
Worse than Tractor Face.
You know what? We'll get into that when we get there, but I feel like at least that series has some intent behind what it's doing.
Okay, that I will give you. That one does circle back around, and we'll get there. This one, yeah, this feels very basic. Like the concept alone puts maybe a step above basic isekai overall, but
But it
honestly,
doesn't really sell on that. Like it doesn't succeed on following up with that promise.
This feels like honestly, it feels like New Game Plus on RPG Legacy.
Yeah. And you know, again, animation wise, it feels like they really scraped the bottom of the barrel for what animators they could get. Like this is some in another world with my smartphone tier animation that they've got going on here. Like they just had to desperately hire some people fresh out of the hentai industry or something to fill their ranks. It's just
it's competent at least. I won't say it's awful, but it's at least it's very competently done. I have to give points to at least it's not. Oh, there is animation errors everywhere. Nothing clips through everything. It's
right. I have seen worse. It's at least consistent. You can tell that the people working on it have done other stuff before, but it's definitely like D tier in terms of just the straight up designs and animation quality. Lots and lots of really static scenes of just like mouths flapping and stuff like that.
Yeah, this is made on a budget without a lot of skill.
Yeah, for sure. So I would personally drop this one probably. Like I don't think I would recommend this to other people. So for me, it goes comfortably in the D tier.
D or dropped. I could agree either way on that one. This is a base isekai, and those still do draw people in.
Yeah.
Which the concept is still interesting too, like because once again, it is New Game Plus the isekai. What happens if the hero goes back to the world he saved, and it's not saved?
Yep. Which kind of you know brings up questions about the whole concept of like happily ever after and things like that too, right? Personally, yeah, I agree. Like, I would put this in the dropped category if I had actually dropped it. Like, I wouldn't recommend that people watch this. I would recommend that they keep it in these bottom two. But just on nature, the fact that I have continued watching it despite how bad it is, because I have a certain niche in my life for things that I don't mind being interrupted while I'm watching them.
This is okay anime.
Yeah, this is good enough for like me to have as almost background noise.
Yep. All right. I'll agree with you just because it has stayed there on my list.
Fair enough. Okay, next up is Skip and Loafer.
All right. Now, until this point, we've gone through a bunch of Crunchyroll ones. I believe this is the first high dive anime we're hitting to.
No, this one is actually also Crunchyroll.
God damn it. I thought I was watching all the Crunchyroll ones at least.
So for you, that's a solid did not watch. um,
To be fair, Crunchyroll has had a major problem with their update list right now, with them dumping
yes,
a ton of stuff into it.
I
So there's
agree.
has been a lot of stuff that has been got lost in the shuffle.
Yes, that has been a major challenge for me this season. In fact, the very fact that the continue watching list is not large enough to accommodate all of the new anime this season is a problem in and of itself. Um, like it's hard to stay on top of certain shows when you literally can't keep them on the list of stuff that you're actively watching.
Especially if you share a Crunchyroll account with somebody.
Oh yeah, if you don't have separate profiles set up or something. Um,
Does Crunchyroll let you do different profiles?
I'm not actually sure. I've never tried.
I don't think it does.
I think VRV did, but maybe Crunchyroll doesn't. I know High Dive does. I've never tried with Crunchyroll.
Okay, is there anything you would like to say, or is this also a bleh?
So I have watched at least the first episode of this. I'm pretty far behind on it, but I did want to give it a shot before we did this. And what I would say is it seems like a competent slice of life romance anime. Nothing really stood out about it to me. The art and everything was decent. The character interactions were decent, but there was nothing about it that really set it apart. So for me, I think this one just kind of sits in the general B, or it's a little bit too good for me to put it in the C tier. Like there was clearly some love that was put into the series, but it definitely so far at least doesn't have enough to put it up into the A or S tiers.
I'm gonna stretch this out for all the viewers out there. Push my screen a little bit because I know it's a little hard to see some of these. Yeah. Which once again, that's the other problem. That is also not my genre, so I don't see myself boosting that one up too much.
Yeah, if that kind of slice of life romance isn't your thing, then this one is definitely skippable from what I've seen so far. Okay, next up is Kimi wa Hokago Insomnia, also known as Insomniacs After School, and this is the first one that is actually a High Dive anime on our list.
Okay. I'm going to say again, slice of life, especially romance slice of life. Which, granted, this doesn't also have the high school tag, so it's not completely atypical of my watch list. But this was I watched the first episode, enjoyed the animation, enjoyed the story, enjoyed the characters, but could not get hooked on it.
That's fair. If it's really outside your genre, I can understand that. For me personally, I definitely am setting this for the moment at like kind of the A tier.
Yep.
The animation quality, as you observed, is definitely there. There's very real tension between the two characters that feels very natural and fluid. I also really enjoy the central concept of them both being insomniacs and how that plays into their lives and affects the way that they live and their interpersonal relationships with each other. This is, to me, one that maybe has the potential to move up to S tier, depending on how it plays out, but so far, every indication is that it'll comfortably sit kind of in the A column for me.
Yeah. And once again, this isn't something I would say isn't recommendable if you don't like this, because this is a show I know once it was finished, I might go back and binge this, because this does feel incredibly well made. Like, we're not putting this at A tier for, like, I mean, I'm not arguing against this for any mild reason. This is a master crafted, done show for the quality it is and the story it is. This is almost feels like a Kyo anime studio show.
Yeah, it definitely has a lot of care and love and a decent enough budget behind it to really make it shine. It's just kind of a question of, you know, will they take it somewhere that feels fresh enough by the end or unique enough or something like that to really solidify its place in kind of anime history. Uh, I might be a little conservative about what I put in S ranks. um,
I mean,
but
this ranks shit. This is also mid-season, so
yeah,
that unless it's just, I would say it's we might have to reconsider on that one, just bumping stuff up because once again, this isn't supposed to be like, oh, this could be have the potential or could be that. Ranking them probably as they stand probably be a better aspect of it.
yep. That's where I'm trying to stay from my perspective, at least at the moment.
Yeah. Which a few of these are like Magical Destroy. That show is going to be completely consistent on its ending. But what do we got next?
Next up is another High Dive exclusive. Trying to remember the name of this one. Give me just a moment. This was that Alice Gear Aegis expansion show that I kind of railed against in our last episode. I'm not sure if you ended up watching it at all.
I skimmed through episode 1. Oh my god, that episode 1 is. Tell me, does episode 2 get better? Should this have been a 3-episode anime?
You know, I can't even tell you because this is the first one that's actually fallen into dropped for me.
Okay, so we agree. Episode 1 is utter trash.
Yeah, episode 1 was just so bad that I actually so far have not been able to bring myself to spend more time watching this. Especially with just the sheer amount of other stuff that I want to try to watch this season.
Yeah. So solid drop from us both. Yay!
So far, yeah. I could because I haven't watched more of it. It is possible that there is some crazy thing that redeems this, but I'm not very hopeful.
It failed episode 1 in this. It's like you have to give it at what you launch at this season.
Yep.
If you open with a dumpster fire up at episode 1, it's
going to be really hard to retain an audience with this much competition.
Oh, exactly.
Okay, next up, we're back to Crunchyroll again with My One Hit Kill Sister.
I skimmed episode 1 and I couldn't get past that. Honestly, again, this was generic isekai with a lot of incestuous vibes to it.
Yeah, I have actually stuck with this one, so I can tell you it only gets more incesty as it goes. More and more like thinly veiled authors kink of the week kind of stuff as well.
The writers barely disguise fetish.
Yes. It is kind of more in the comedy section than it is the actual ecchi fan service section. So there's that. But nonetheless, if you're uncomfortable with clear vocal incest between the protagonist and his sister, even though the protagonist always keeps her at an arm's distance, you're probably not going to be a fan of this one.
Honestly, that is I can't tell if I'm actually maturing as a person, but it's that unwanted romance, male or female side that it's really been putting me off on a lot of shows lately. It's not a trope I've enjoyed. I ever really enjoyed to begin with, and it's a trope I've grown to like less and less over the years.
That is absolutely fair. So I think this one, animation wise, it has moments where it has like really, really solid animation, And then it has a lot of other moments where the animation is pretty meh. There's just not a lot going on. The scenes are very static. So like here and there, you really feel the budget hit. But for the most part, not so much. I will put out there that the ending animation is definitely worth a watch, especially if you're the kind of person who's a fan of things like JoJo, because it definitely lends itself to that kind of style. But I think this one, it's fair to say, is pretty mid C tier. Animation quality and stuff, it's definitely above what we've got in the D tier at the moment. But
I don't know. I almost want to drop it. It's the animation quality is higher. I will give that, but the story, I don't know. It just feels so. The story and concept drop it down a notch for me.
that's fair.
I would almost want to put that in D.
I would say it's more of a character-driven show than a story-driven show. By that logic, for me, it's more C tier. But I could definitely see this falling into either the C or D category pretty comfortably.
All right. Well, you want to put it at the top of D? Is that a good compromise for you?
I mean, is that a thing you can do? Or you mean like all the
Oh,
way to
yeah.
the left?
Yep. It's a common thing with the ranking on that one.
Sure, yeah, the upper side of D tier.
Yeah, D, almost C, depending on if you can get over the unwanted romance, the incestuous stuff.
Yeah,
So,
or conversely, if that's really your thing, then maybe this is more of a B tier for you.
I don't know how many people do we got watch us from Alabama.
Great question. From my metrics, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Next up, is a series that I kind of suspect probably neither of us have watched. In fact, I didn't even know this was a thing until I was putting this tier list together. Which is Opus.Colors.
I think I had this on my list of stuff to check out, but I think I skipped this one. Is this a Crunchyroll or a High Dive one?
I think this is Crunchyroll. Let me check here.
Because to note for all our viewers, I don't actually have High Dive, so I'm catching those.
I don't know that
where
it's
I
either,
can.
which might be why it flew under my radar. I think this one isn't licensed. I think it's only airing in Japan. So if you want this, it might have to be fan subs.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Well, they still dub it sometimes, but okay. So have you watched this? Because I don't even know what this is.
I have not. This looks like it has little to no appeal to me. It like the all boys school kind of setting just doesn't really have a lot of pull for me.
Oh, not the yaoi fan?
Sorry?
Not the yaoi fan?
No, not a yaoi fan. Yeah, tags, primarily male cast, male protagonist, boys love, CGI.
Oh, that's just looking Yeah, okay, that's the one that did not watch, sorry.
Yeah, and
Just
it's
because
only got like a 44% from the audience ranking so far, so does not bode well for it.
Still higher than a few of the things I've watched, unfortunately.
Yep. All right.
That's Blue Orchid, I believe, or Blue something. I remember.
Something. Blue something. Up next, our review for Blue something. Aoi no Orchestra. So yeah, Blue Orchestra.
Okay.
This is another one that snuck under the radar for me. I'm not sure this is actually airing anywhere on the streaming services either.
Yeah, I was looking up for this one. I did find it on the list. I did not see it on any platforms, which once again has been problematic with Crunchyroll as well as a couple others. Well, Crunchyroll has just been a cluster mess, and High Dive has, unfortunately, like I said, it has been something I've missed, unfortunately, at this point. Although I don't I know there are a couple locked on Amazon and Disney Plus, I believe, but
So it turns out I had to actually do some research on this. If you're outside of the U.S., then some series do appear on Disney Plus. But if you're in the US, then the series that Disney has licensed will only appear on Hulu and not on Disney Plus. Because Disney
okay.
also owns Hulu. And for whatever reason, they have decided they don't want to publish anime under the Disney Plus brand here in the US, and instead have opted to put them on Hulu and I guess benefit from the extra revenue from commercials as an added bonus. Incidentally,
All
it
right.
does feel kind of rough to have to pay for a service and still get commercials on it.
Yes, it does. That has been a big deterrent for me on that. A lot of that.
But that
So,
aside, I have not watched this. From what I can tell, it looks like it probably sits somewhere around the C tier. Maybe a B. But I can't say I've seen any of it thus far.
yep, same for me. Unfortunately, this once again, if your show does not stick out, you don't get that advertisement. It's no longer the days of there's these 4, 6, 10 anime coming out. You should watch them if you like these genres, or if you just want new anime. They do have to be competitive, and if we're not able to see them, you're out of luck.
Yep, and series that don't get a official licensing don't really get the same promotion from the fandom that they used to either. As more and more things become licensed, and it becomes harder and harder to, legally and acceptably do any kind of fan subbing and that kind of thing. It puts the market in this awkward position where the channels through which these kinds of hidden gems, so to speak, that maybe fell through the cracks used to get promoted and then eventually picked up in the US don't really get that kind of push anymore unless they really, really stand out.
And it's rare those don't automatically get picked up by the services nowadays.
Yep. Okay.
Or if it's a series that just did not click with the services.
Yeah.
Interspecies Reviewer Season 2, when?
I know. That actually, brings up a whole other topic of, like, censorship by wallet and things like that makes me really uncomfortable about the current state of the anime world.
That 60% is owned by Sony at the moment?
Yeah. And how that, really will impact the future of creativity within the industry and kind of, crush a lot of the creativity, I feel, that, originally brought us stuff like those crazy 90s anime we were talking about earlier, as everything becomes more and more sanitized for the Western audiences and what these companies think that people in the Western audiences want, while also diverting funds to things like Chinese not anime, which
we have
is,
something to discuss at the end of this video.
yeah.
Oh dear God, do we have something to discuss?
Yep. So, that said, though, moving right along to our next series, Kaminaka Sekai no Kami-sama Katsudo, or Kamikatsu, Working for God in a Godless World, also earlier referred to in this very stream as the Tractor anime.
Put it in S tier. This is okay. There are going to be a handful of spoilers for this one, just because there is a lot to unpack.
Hi, Pixel.
For this one.
Pixel says Chinese anime link click was awesome. Don't knock it.
It could be okay, but yeah, it's start off with, like, what was your how far have you got in this one? Have you stayed up to date on this one?
I've pretty much stayed up to date on this one. There might be like one episode that just came out that I haven't watched yet. But yeah, I'm pretty up to date on this one.
I believe it's a
Like
Friday
7
release, so
episodes in or something like that.
yeah. Okay, once again, spoiler warning and content warning because whoa, this is a something on this one. Well, actually, this also does bring up the argument of this is
Yes, there are 2
marketed
agents
as
on my screen. They're multiplying.
I am omnipresent. I grow and expand. For everyone over in the multi-stream, which I will post on my end too. I could probably post on your side too if it wasn't there.
Have you considered solving said problem with fire?
But all right, so this one is marketed as an isekai and does come off on that, but there is an argument to be made for or against it depending on your genre on this one. Which, once again, spoiler for anyone still lurking around, but this is actually a time travel anime.
In the strictest sense, yes.
Moving forward in time is time travel.
Correct.
Other than that, this is once again, God in a godless world, and is the biggest thing. A main character who despises religion, wants everything away from it, turning to, well, I'm either screwed or I gotta restart my old religion that killed me.
Well, technically, they're starting a new religion just for the same god.
I feel like there's some semantics in that, but
Well, a religion is a compilation of the rules and dogma that surround it, not just who it is worshipping, right? Which is why we have so many different flavors of Christianity, for instance.
okay, on that premise, I will give you that. I will definitely give you on that end. But overall, this is a very high concept with very well done characters. You seem to be able to sum up animation better than I can. How would you rate this animation? Because that is one of the interesting points I love about this.
Okay, so the animation in this is definitely very interesting. It's almost a case
It's a
study.
shit post. It's a shit post.
Yes and no. So, okay, if you look at just the individual character animations, the designs feel very fluid. The characters feel solid. Everything moves well. But then there is random stuff in there that is completely not matching with anything else. So, these horrible looking CG monsters, and then really, really outlandish stuff such as the tractor thing, that completely breaks with the entire rest of the animation to the point that there's clearly some degree of intent behind it, even if at least some of that intent has to do with the budget. Which kind of brings it full circle because of just how crazy and out there they get with it.
Oh, it's absolutely monstrous at some points. And let's not forget the CGI, the PS3 level CGI monsters.
Yep.
I even fail to call them that sometimes.
So basing it just on those, the strange beasts as they call them, I had initially wanted to really dock this anime, but the tractor thing, as well as some of the stuff that went on in the later episodes, where like significant portions of the episode suddenly became pixel art, really kind of put it back up there for me.
Oh, it says the PS2 CGI monster. God, I'm not sure if I would even call this PS2 level at some point. Like, I've seen some PS1 AMVs that look better than this.
Well, yeah, but
like
the AMVs are
CGI.
always a few generations ahead of the in-game rendering.
I know you're calling me that, Pixel, and once again, I can't. God, I'm trying to think of CGI monsters that stick out or feel worse.
Oh, I
And
can
I
think of
can't.
some. There was a anime a few seasons back that ended up getting another season, and I'm drawing a blank on the name of it, but the
The one with
CGI
the one with the chains, I presume. I
chains.
remember, I remember there was one that had like god awful chain CGI like everywhere.
No, not that one. Um, there was one that just it was just straight up monsters that they were fighting in this like underground dungeon, and the monsters were just so awful. Those I would truly say were like PS2 graphics that they had just snapped in there with no compositing or anything. Um, that was one of the worst, most egregious offenders, and these, by comparison, are actually not nearly as bad. Um, I think to me the best comparison still remains like 5-year-old cell phone game in terms of the 3D quality on these creatures.
Like the larger monsters, you get a long view from. Like he doesn't zoom in on, but there's just what is it, episode 2 or 3 where they zoom in on this fox pet thing, and it's just it looks like a Tamagotchi
Well,
on a widescreen.
what I will give you at least about the fox pet is it has a fluidity to its motion. It's not choppy or anything like that. Uh, but yes, it looks so out of place.
It's horrendous, and then what's it? But it's one of those they couldn't make it look good, so they made it look awful, as god awful as they could, and it's amazing. Now the only thing I will say is a possible negative for people watching this: all the women and even the men that used to be women are over sexualized to it. My holy garbage extent. I don't think past episode 2 there's a scene where they're not in fetish outfits.
Well, to be fair, a lot of that is to do with the comedic elements. And hang on, I'm gonna put something up on the screen. There we go. There, there's our quality of animation that we're talking about here. This is in fact one of the strange beasts from that series.
Yeah, there you go, Pixel. If you want to compare it, that's not an off or a still or just picture that in motion.
And it moves exactly how you'd expect, with the fur just being a texture directly attached to the skin. It is weird.
They even chop it up at some points. It's like it doesn't change the model somehow. Or the textures. It's just yes, that anime Pixel. It's just
Also, if the series we were talking about earlier contained barely disguised fetishes, this one is completely undisguised fetishes. To the point that they lean hard into it for the humor aspect.
Yep. Yeah, it's a little compressed on my screen right now because unfortunately I can readjust, but let's see here. Let's try to fix that back again a little bit. Yeah, for a better view on that for everyone on my side. I'll try to expand that. But yeah, that's it does not get, but that once again as much as we're ragging on this how bad the CGI and some of the animation and how weird it, because that's not the most off-putting. Once again, is it could you possibly look up on a picture of the tractor face? Because
Let me see what I can do.
there's not a good way to see if I can find that really quick.
Yeah, I found it. Hang on.
All right, you did find it?
I did find it, yeah. Just a moment.
Oh,
Just need to get the direct link here. Oh, it's a little bit small. Let me see if I can find a bigger one. There we go, that's bigger.
all right, you have found it.
Oh, I accidentally copied something. Hang on. Alright, there we go. So, no lie, this is a direct screen cap from the show, where they clearly took an actual farmer on a tractor, and then put a filter over it and superimposed the character's head on top of the farmer.
And they reuse it. I
Yeah.
can't remember if it's in the same episode or not, but
Yeah,
they
there's like a
reused it
flashback.
somehow.
There was a flashback to the scene again later.
It's like the first time you see it, you just kind of wonder. It's like because I honestly, I admit it, when I first watched this, I lost it. I absolutely lost it. It's just
Like,
no. It's just like I
it's
could not
both
believe what I
terrible
was.
and genius simultaneously.
Oh, it was glorious. Because it's in motion. It's not better. It's worse. It's
It is
far
indeed
worse.
Far worse, yes.
Because he talks. He
Oh,
looks
yes.
at you and he talks. And it's like it's the only time the character animation's choppy too. Ah,
That said,
oh,
all else aside, the show is definitely interesting. It's compelling. If you can get past all the weird sex stuff, you know, if that's
And there is a lot of
not a
it.
deal breaker for you, then this is definitely worth a watch.
just to note on that, the first religion because it does turn into a religious fight between different sects of gods or deities. The first one they fight is the one that's all about sex and fetishes.
This is true.
And it's but once again, I'm adamant. Like I want this in S tier. This might be one of my favorite recommends of this season, honestly.
For me, it actually probably sits at about A tier at the moment, but I definitely feel that it has strong S tier potential.
Oh dear God, yes. Okay.
Whether it becomes famous or infamous, I think this one will definitely live on in anime lore and memory.
Ugh. Okay. What's next out of? What's following that?
Yes, following up that tractor fire.
Okay, that might be a thing we use.
Tractor fire, yes. So this is another Crunchyroll series, and it is one of this season's romance anime, Otanari ni Ginka, or A Galaxy Next Door. And I talked about this one a little bit last time around, I think. Yeah. Have you had a chance to look at this one at all?
Once again, this was part of the romance anime, and with this lineup, I have just skipped this one. I skimmed episode 1 again, and it was okay. There are some interesting points. The animation is okay. It's doing good. It's not doing great, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would say that's fair. In terms of like the story and the character interactions and everything, I feel like this occupies a little bit of a different niche than some of the others, and the manga aspect to it elevates it a little bit for me. So for me, at the moment, I think this one's sitting at a fairly comfortable C or B, but I could see an argument, you know, depending on who's eye of the beholder, that it might be more of a C tier.
Yeah, once again, this wasn't my style, and I only got the first. Is it more romance, or is it more following the mangaki style art aspect?
I would say it's slice of life manga author with a strong romance aspect that also has some kind of weird supernatural thing thrown in.
Okay, yeah, because I do remember that with the island and the other stuff. Which, once again, this will probably be one I say. Next time, if we do another one of these, we might have to put on a save for binge side too. Because once again, there are a lot I like on these, but I have to know ahead of time that it lands that ending, and this just does not have the pull for me.
I think I'll put it in C tier at the moment, on account of it being strongly outside of your viewer tendencies.
Yeah, okay. Anything else on that one, or do you think you were good at that?
I think that one, there's not a whole lot to say about it, because it's very character driven. And even if I gave like plot spoilers or something like that, it wouldn't really matter too much. But yeah, I don't really have a whole lot to add there. It's cute. The family element that it brings is a little bit unusual and fresh and unique, with the main character being almost like a single dad as the older brother to his two siblings, which adds an element to the relationship that you don't see in a lot of romance anime. Okay. Next up is The Hero is Dead.
Okay, this was another Crunchyroll one. This is one I have watched a bit of. I've gotten a bit more skimmy with it as it's gone on. An actual fantasy anime, not just an isekai too, for once. So I have to give it a little points for that. But it started off with a good premise, but once again, I do have the problem with the it's that old, I don't know, 90s, 2000 of, was it Yadri? Oh, you did something pervy. I'm going to slap you. Oh, I didn't like that. While also trying to be a harem isekai, almost isekai, not isekai, I guess. Because if you told me this was an isekai, I would believe you.
Yeah, it's an Issa body. I think for me, it's been like kind of a fun ride. Like, that if you look at it from the lighthearted aspect, the humor's good. It does have a few strong points, with it being like equal access, equal opportunity at least, where the sex jokes aren't only targeted at one gender, which is, I think it deserves a certain amount of praise for that at least, even if a lot of the pervy elements are pretty tropey and maybe a little too non-con. But
Yeah.
it's still, at least in my book, been an interesting watch, and it does have a few decent twists in it. So for me, it's sitting around kind of the C or B category.
I could definitely see that. Um,
Animation also is decent, but not fantastic.
this to me, this would be a much more C style anime than it would a there we go. So I'm just trying to crop a little bit here. Than it would be a B. It's just there we go. That's much better.
I think that's a fair and understandable perspective. If you're someone who, is just in it for like the kind of ecchi comedy concept, then this might be closer to the B or maybe even A category for you. But
Once again, it's a comedy. It's like there is a lot set up there with the hero, the fake hero, and they even do a bit with the main character being, oh, he might actually just be worthy of being a hero with a bunch of the stuff he's done and it did. But it leads a little too heavy into the ichi comedy for me for such a great comedic premise to begin with.
yeah, I kind of unnecessarily. I'll grant you that. Like it almost is trying to be two completely different shows at the same time.
Yep.
Suffering from a little bit of identity crisis. Okay. Next up is Yuri is My Job. I don't know if you ended up checking this one out at all. This is another Crunchyroll.
I hard skipped on this one once again, unfortunately.
Hard skipped.
Just-
Okay, Agent gives it a strong did not watch. For me,
It's- Oh, you go ahead.
no, you can finish first.
I would say it's just the animation did look good. The basic premise just if slice of life is not a genre I like, romance is not a slice of life, and well, I know it's not set directly to high school. This is that high school age group again, and those are nothing in that is pulling me to an anime.
So, it's actually somewhat more meta than that. They are high school age students that attend high school, and they work at a cafe where they role play as characters from a non-existent fantasy high school. It's
Meta
next
within
level
meta.
high school.
Oh Jesus!
Yeah. So, having stuck with this one a bit, I will say that it does have some twists in it that make it pretty interesting. The animation, while it doesn't have anything, spectacular about it, is definitely solid and serviceable. To the point where I think if they had made it any more, I don't know how to put this. If they had gone any harder with the animation, it may actually have detracted from the character interaction. So, for me, I feel like this one is pretty solidly in the C or B category so far. If you're into this kind of show, I would definitely recommend it. It's not quite what it appears to be on the surface, and the characters, it turns out, are all going a bit deeper than they appear to be on the surface as well, which is nice. Out of respect for the fact that Pixel has it as a did not watch, I'm gonna go ahead and keep it in the C category.
Pixel.
Or not Pixel, Agent. Sorry, Pixel's been talking in the chat, so...
I've been reading a chat too, which also I don't get slapped that often. I'm too big for that. I can't reach. But yeah, it's once again maybe I don't know. Maybe try selling these a little harder the next season, but it's a hard thing for me, and I'll probably try to force myself to get through a few more of these next time. But this was a hard pass.
If it's just not your thing, sometimes it's just not your thing. Alright, the Konosuba Spin-Off, Explosion on This Beautiful World.
Yep. On my end, I was actually waiting for this one to finish. I didn't think we were going to originally count this.
Not a problem.
Because of the sequels.
Yeah.
No, this is on my to-watch list at the moment. It's just because of all the other loads, it's been I'm going to save this for a minute.
That's fair. You need to have a few things to watch during that between-season lull anyway, right? Yeah, I ended up picking this one up. I'm not fully caught up with it because I'm watching the English dub version with a family member, which is part of why I ended up picking this one up and kind of putting it on the list. I would say, so far, in my opinion, it's sitting kind of in the B section. It's not really living up to the original Konosuba, but it is definitely still a serviceable anime with some decent humor in it and some fun premises, even if it is a little bit slower than I would like with some of the comedy.
Oh, Pixel, that's a bit. It's the problem is with a lot of these is it's hard to take a series and take one character out of that and make a spin-off show. It has historically been horrible as an idea. The two biggest shows that come to mind at this point are being Planet Sheen and the Patrick Star Show, both of which are horrendous. It's a prequel, but it is one focusing on Megumi specifically.
Yeah, and it does have some interesting background it delves into, in terms of like the culture that she comes from and stuff like that. But the jokes don't really have a lasting impact.
Yep. It's the best version of this I've ever seen done. But once again, you are focusing on a character who has about 3 jokes to her, while those are some of the best jokes in Konosuba.
It's kind of lacking without the rest of the character interactions that make the series work.
Yep. Maybe I don't know her name. It's Megumi, right?
Megumin.
Okay. It's just me mispronouncing stuff. You watch my streams. You have played games with me. You know how I slur everything, especially names.
Okay.
Prove me wrong.
I'll get right on that. Yukikaze.
Case in point.
Yep. Oshi no Ko. This one doesn't actually have an English translation that I know of. So this is one of the high dive ones. I'm not sure if you got a chance to look at this one at all yet.
Unfortunately, this one had, like I said, most of the high dive have unfortunately gone under my radar, just because it is a streaming service I don't have, and I do tend to forget about it sometimes.
Fair enough. So, what I could say from my perspective, this one has the potential to be an S tier. The way that it opened up with a movie-length first episode and then went to 30-minute, or 20 to 30-minute standard episodes after that was definitely a bold choice.
Okay, so this was the idle child-rearing horror. Honestly, like from everything I saw in this anime, I was really confused on what it is.
As you should be. Because it is a great many things. I don't want to say too much, because even within the first episode, there's potentially at least several major spoilers that could be dropped. But I will say this anime has a lot going on, especially in the first episode. And the first episode alone could really be its own thing and stand alone, just fine. But the fact that they continued to follow that up with, the rest of the series to kind of flesh out where things leave off at the end of episode 1. Okay, so this one I'm not fully caught up on. But not because I dislike it, rather because it's one of the series that I feel like I need to really be able to give my full investment in when I'm watching it. Yeah, it really needs my full attention. And I don't always have those time slots available. But I will say that although the episodes I've seen after the first episode aren't nearly as crazy as the first episode was, they are still compelling, and they are still interesting, and still make for a decent series. And so, depending on where this one goes, I definitely feel that this one has S-tier potential. But at the very least, I think it's earned a solid place in A tier. There's a few things in the first episode that are not the most polished plot-wise, but, the sheer amount that's going on kind of compensates for that, I guess. And it definitely has the visual spectacle to it as well, to really have the potential to hit those upper ranks.
Okay, so that one I might have to play catch up on that one if we ever do a final ranking of the seasons.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay.
I
I
would
believe
definitely
we
give
have,
that one at least the 3-episode rule or something.
even though episode 1 is the equivalent to 3 episodes, but
Yes.
okay.
You almost have to do episode 1 and then the next 3 episodes as the first 3 episodes.
Okay then. Kiyu says you're I'm safe because Kiyu is too busy or too lazy. All right, fine, Pixel. I believe next up we have the Moe Blob anime.
Otaku Elf. This is another high dive, so I'm not sure that you've seen any of this so far.
I did skim through episode 1 once again on this one on stuff. VR. The premise was interesting. I like the concept. Once again, it's a Moe Blob style anime from the feels I got in episode 1.
I mean, it has a little bit of that here and there. Most of the time, though, the characters don't really morph or anything like that. In fact, I would say that the series, one of its strong points is the kind of solid, fluid animation and characters designs that it has. But it is really slow and very, very character driven, but not in a particularly interesting way for the most part. So I don't feel comfortable putting it in D tier just because the animation quality and everything is relatively polished. And it's not that it's bad, it just doesn't hold me very well.
This is one of those relaxing. What do they call that genre?
Healing
I'm going
anime?
to sit down. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, it kind of falls into the healing anime genre almost. But I'm not sure it quite succeeds there either.
Yeah, that was the other problem because I have enjoyed healing anime a couple of times. There have been a good couple of those that are just good to watch. This just felt. It's not bad, just
aimless, meandering,
boring.
A little bit boring, yeah. Yeah, like it kind of feels like it's a waste of all of that polish that they put into it. I kind of feel like they could have made this be one of those like D tier animation shows, and that would have been fine for what it's bringing to the table. But without the animation, it would definitely sit significantly lower than it does.
Yeah.
So far, it hasn't really had anything to really redeem itself either. Okay.
No, just nothing egregious, but nothing hooking.
Yeah. Okay. Sure that this is the one I think it is. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Have to sneeze. Excuse me. Next up on the list. What's it?
My Home Hero, I believe.
Yes, My Home Hero. I spoke very highly of this one the first time around, and I think you hadn't seen any of it yet. Did you get a chance to watch this at all?
I have watched the first 3 episodes, and it's okay. I enjoy the animation. Weirdly enough, the story is what's losing me, though.
Interesting. So for me, the story is what's really compelling, because it does have those kind of monster vibes to it.
Yeah, that's about the comparison I would make to it.
Yeah, and the animation kind of has that feel to it too, actually, which is intriguing. I almost wonder if maybe the manga was adapted from the same manga artist or something like that.
Magaki? Yep. I didn't bother to look that up myself last time. I can try to check, but that's honestly the problem I'm kind of having with it. I have watched I've watched through Monster, and while I do enjoy the murder mystery side of it and all the how they done it, all that, it's not a type of show I can watch week to week.
Yeah,
that cliffhanger is what gets me every time.
It is definitely a difficult watch. It falls into kind of that same category as Oshi no Ko, where I need to have like my full attention on it, and I really need to be able to watch it. Otherwise, I feel like I'm missing things. Right now, I think this one is still sitting in kind of the A tier for me. But depending on how it pans out, if it ends up kind of falling off or the story falls apart, it could end up in more of a B. If it ends up with some really, amazing twists on top of what it's already built, then it's totally possible it could end up in the S tier for me as well.
Yep. I like I said, with how hard it is to watch as a week-to-week anime, I almost want to drop it down to B. Because
Yeah.
while it is done great, it's high B, I would say, too, of that, like,
Yeah,
towards the top.
I would say right now it's kind of hovering between B and A, so I could see that like a top of the B category at the moment.
Yeah.
It definitely still has the potential to kind of get up into that S tier because of the way that it's built itself, but unclear where it will end up. Okay, Mashal. This is one that you sold very hard the first time around.
Oh, Mashal, Magic and Muscles. The
It is
one
One Punch
detractor I
Man
will
at
say to this,
Hogwarts.
what?
It is One Punch Man at Hogwarts.
That's not a bad way to describe that, honestly. The one thing I will say is episode 1, 2, and kind of 3 are a bit slow. It's like it has one joke to start out with, and not and I don't think we even really get our first major supporting character till technically we get the first one episode 2, but she's the least of the group, and we get our second one episode 3, and after that point it does start taking off quite a bit.
Yeah.
So this is a shonen. And how far have you gotten so far in this?
I've been more or less keeping pace with it, and you're right, it does pick up a little bit around episode 4. The first couple episodes, I was definitely having that kind of fear that it was going to be a little bit, kind of two-dimensional or one-tone, where it just had the one joke, and that's really all you got. They've at least done a good job of continuing that joke from episode to episode. But there's... it definitely isn't One Punch Man for me.
Oh, the biggest thing for it is, well, the main character, Mashal, is a wonderful cream puff.
I see what you did there.
You get tired of him, not quickly, but you do get tired of him. It's when he finally starts getting his supporting cast, you see him interacting with those other friends of his as he actually develops friends. It's because while this is a heavy shonen, so it does have that slow burn start, this is a lot better than a lot of current big shonen jump starts. This is leagues above Black Clover's start. I would even say
I will definitely grant you that, yeah.
But is a notch below My Hero.
Oh, probably a couple notches below My Hero, in my opinion.
Yeah, I will give you that, just because they were able to set up their supporting cast so much better. But it is also the thing of, I don't know what words lose me how to describe the main character other than he is as thick as he is strong.
Yeah, and so because of that, he kind of relies on the characters around him to bring life to the series. And because it's that sort of rival-based character interaction economy that you get with a lot of shonen series, there is definitely a lot of build-up to kind of creating that friend group to support him and play off of his sort of deadpan humor.
Yeah. Because it is an interesting reverse hero from the standard shonen, where the main character does not care at all. He is the deadpan, so, ooh, cream puff.
On that note, I do want to throw out there a note. The ending theme song to this show is definitely a bit of a banger for how silly it is. And likewise, the opening theme to The Hero is Dead is definitely worth checking out in and of itself.
I will definitely give that. Although I still think my two favorite, if I had to say favorite openings, they would be Magical Destroy and oh Save Me, Oh Takasam.
Magical Destroyers is pretty psychotic with its openings and endings. I'm not going to say that they're bad, but I think they're a little more niche in their appeal.
Which I am that niche, and the other one, our S tier one, I can never get that. Such a weird name for that show too.
Kamikatsu?
Yeah, just how weirdly wholesome that opening is.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said with how the openings and endings interplay with the shows. That can really have a big impact, much more so than people realize a lot of the times on that show's success. Because those really do set the show up in terms of its tone and things like that. And a really successful interaction there can elevate a series, whereas one that falls very flat can undermine it.
Yep, which so far most of the anime this season haven't been too bad. So Mashal is a C for you, I'm guessing.
I would say it's pretty in the C or B tier for me.
I would have to put up to C just for how I like how atypical the main character is for a shonen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like the animation's solid. It's not spectacular, but it's serviceable. The central theme and everything are funny, but they just don't have like enough to really drive it into the upper ranks for me.
Yeah, but it does need more. Its supporting cast are where it lives and dies. I would put it towards the top of C, but I would towards the back end of it. Once again, unfortunately, I do know where it's going, so I might be a little bit more biased at that end, just because I know where the story picks up at. But
well, that's also as I said, it kind of is on the fence for me as well, even not knowing that. So I think that's reasonably fair. Let's see.
All right, then. What do we got next?
Next up is another Crunchyroll show. This is one that I didn't really know about until recently. I had to, when I was kind of doing my homework on, what else had come out this season, this one came up, and so I gave it a quick shot. This is Why Raylina Ended Up at the Duke's Mansion.
Is this another, was it Yamoto? Or it's that isekai genre where I've transported to the game or the book I was reading as the villainess.
Yes, it's another one of those villainess kind of things. Technically, this time she's a supporting character that's supposed to be like the first one who dies in the book, rather than the villain. But she's kind of turning herself into the villain.
Oh, great. Unfortunately, this was one I missed. I will actually probably catch this one because, I say I hate roboheads and slice of life, but for some odd reason, that genre picks up on me. It might just be the isekai trash smells coming out way far off of those to draw me into them, but...
So I've only just scratched the surface of this one, but so far, it's falling into dropped for me.
Okay, because it did not look like it did much new to begin with.
Yeah, that's my main problem with it is it's not really going anywhere fresh. It feels very similar to the other couple of similar series that have come out the last few seasons, and it doesn't feel like it's bringing much new to the table.
Okay.
Okay. Next up is My Clueless Best Friend. Wait, no, it's not. I lied. Wrong show. This is one of the High Dive series that has come out this season. And this one, I think you had said that you wanted to take a look at. This is The Dangers in My Heart.
Ah, yes. I've seen this. Unfortunately, I kind of forgot about this one after the start, and since it was a high dive, it didn't pop back up on my list.
Fair enough. This one has still been consistently pretty decent for me. I think if you're someone who's getting into it for the kind of reverse yandere vibes that a lot of the marketing gave off, then you may end up being disappointed. Because this is kind of more about stepping away from those feelings and embracing a more standard human interaction as one comes to have the acceptance of a peer or, kind of begin their love story.
Yep.
It's cute. It's, it's been pretty consistent. I wouldn't say that it, deserves to be really higher than B. But the animation is very pretty. Everything in it is solid and serviceable. So for me, it sits pretty comfortably in the B tier.
Yeah, well, it did get off the genre. I had a very distinct feeling that it was going to be this is going to be that edgy teenager figuring out, oh, wait, maybe this is acting like this is stupid. Maybe I just want to know people.
I would say that's not entirely incorrect, but it's not entirely correct either. It's close. It's at least close.
One of those puberty sucks animes that's actually delving into what kind of character, what kind of person you want to be compared to how you actually act.
Yeah, sort of a coming of age thing.
Which what stories that actually do delve into like how that actually is, not just this was a romantic, fun, happy-go-lucky time in high school.
Yeah, it's nice to see series that explore that other side and do it any kind of well. And it's definitely serviceable from that perspective.
Yep, all right.
Okay, next up is The Aristocrats' Otherworldly Adventure Serving Gods Who Go Too Far. Yet another isekai series for this season. I'm not sure if you've managed to catch this one at all.
No, I did sit down and fully watch episode 1 and dropped it.
Dropped it like it's hot?
It's there. I honestly, the first term that comes to mind with this one is boilerplate.
Yes. It's definitely run-of-the-mill rote isekai. I can't say a whole lot else about it. I mean, it's kind of cute and silly, but there's really nothing that makes this stand out. The art isn't amazing.
Wait, I said...
there's just no substance there. For my part, I haven't actually dropped it. I've kept up with it, but it falls kind of into the same category as this other show, where I'm kind of watching it just because I have that niche for shows I don't really need to pay much attention to.
And there's the actual multi-stream link. Unfortunately, I actually posted my Vroid link earlier. Dual PCs. I have messed up. I have messed up slightly on that one.
Yeah, so I would say it's fair that this sits somewhere between D and dropped. Um, I'm leaving it in D just because I have stuck with it technically. There's nothing overtly horrible about it, but there's nothing special about it either.
Yeah, it doesn't do anything wrong. It's not outrageously bad. It doesn't, as far as I can tell, it doesn't provide a crud ton of the uber awful fan service. But
I would say it has actually really like no fan service,
yeah,
which is probably for the better for most viewers because most of the characters are underage.
Yeah, it's one of those. It does nothing offensive, but also does nothing to stand out. So I'm perfectly fine with D.
All right. Next up is one that is kind of a little bit contentious for me. This is yet another isekai title. And it is Isekai de Cheat Skill wo te ni Chita ore wa Genjutsu Sekai wo mo muso suru level up wa jinsei wo keta. Or I got a cheat skill in another world and became unrivaled in the real world too. Okay.
Oh,
This one's a mouthful in all kinds of senses.
I'm going to start with I think you've probably seen more of this than I have. I skimmed through episode 1. I watched the trailers. This is the worst kind of power fantasy for me.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Especially in episode 1. That's like all episode 1 was. I want to say it gets a little better as it goes, but I'm not sure that's really the case. How can I put this? Okay, so the first thing to understand about this series is it has two completely separate and distinct paths going on. One where the character is in the fantasy world, and the other where they're in the real world. And although these technically affect each other, beyond the events that happen early in episode 1, they really don't affect each other much. they're just kind of totally separate plot lines, and they honestly could have basically just been two completely separate shows, and both would have been better for it. That said, it's definitely like wish fulfillment, isekai power fantasy, getting all the girls in the real world, suddenly more handsome than a model, saving people from fires, like every trope you can possibly imagine is present.
Yeah, it came off more as fan fiction, and it's like this is an interesting premise to try out. Personally, I've seen this done in a couple of manga and other series, but to the reverse aspect, it's you take the modern day stuff and put it in the fantasy world and expand from there. Taking the fantasy world stuff and putting it in the real world, it just once again it comes off as a look at me, I'm so good now, I'm so powerful because I have all this stuff you don't. Yay, 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 rah, 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 go, go, go.
It's stats as a substitute for character development, which is kind of a bizarre concept considering that stats were originally intended in RPGs to be a representation of the way that characters developed. Anyway, the monsters in this are horrible. That the CGI is at times like unforgivably bad. The only thing that I can really say in the defense of this series is some of the female character designs are pretty cute, and B, it's one of those times where they go so hard into these tropes that it's kind of entertaining how bad it is. I can't really justify giving this more than like a D.
Like I said, this was a series I had watched and just, yeah.
Yeah. Inexplicably, the main character goes back and forth between being completely CG animated and 2D animated. The rest of the characters are pretty much always 2D animated, except for the monsters, who are almost always, if not always, CG animated, and looking, for the most part, pretty terrible. I will say that the 2D animation is reasonably nice, but that only makes it look weirder when poorly meshed with the bad CG. Yeah, that's about all I can say about this one, I think. I would probably not really recommend watching this unless you want it just for hot trash purposes, like to kind of like laugh about how bad it is.
It could be a fun hate watch with your friends if
Yeah,
you all get. Does it have a dub?
I believe it does have a dub, yes.
All right, if it has a dub, get appropriately inebriated. Stay at a single place because you're going to be too screwed up to drive, and just hate watch this.
Do a shot every time you see a bad CG monster and end up in the hospital.
No, well, but no, I cannot recommend that. Even with everything it's up against, there's not much I can recommend it with.
Yeah, it falls pretty far short of the mark. Which kind of brings me back to my early assessment that I, mentioned in, I think in our first conversation, where I feel like this season has a lot of offerings, but a lot of them are very subpar. Like,
Yeah,
the
but it feels
percentage of them that are actually good or memorable is unusually low.
well, the only reason I could argue against that is there is a ton of in the sequel side that is just holy, like AAA tier. Like there, if we were counting
sure, yeah.
sequels, almost all of them would be up in the S.
And I think what's going on is the ongoing series are eating the majority of the talent.
Or a lot of the studios did not want to put out stuff in this season against that high end pulls.
Yeah, that could be as well. Or just, didn't want to risk the sheer amount of competition going on, or whatever the case may be. Or it could just be kind of watering down to some degree as well, right? Because with the sheer number of series, there's a lot of competition for talent, and that means, studios having to split into new studios and having like maybe half the amount of experienced people they usually would with a bunch of amateurs and problems like that.
Yep. Well, that could definitely be an issue here. But, all right, what do we have next on the list here?
Next up is the Cafe Terrace and its goddesses. The only real proper harem ecchi series that I am aware of this season.
Is this another high dive one?
Nope, this one is Crunchyroll.
How did that... Crunchyroll, make a list for new anime coming out because I missed this one completely. I wasn't even aware of it.
Yeah, a part of the problem that Crunchyroll's been having too is not only the sheer number of new series, knocking stuff off the new release list, but also the fact that they're still trying to back import all the stuff off of Funimation and VRV, which is making that new releases list a real mess. And it already had a lot of problems with the fact that stuff that was getting like some kind of new dub in like German or something like that would pop back up on the list again. But with all of that going on, that list is just not very useful anymore.
Yeah, they really need to get something out, but it's Sony, so
Yeah.
I'm not going to hold my breath, fortunately.
All right. Well, speaking on the show, this is like kind of a B or a C offering for me. It's definitely serviceable. It doesn't really have a lot of competition in its niche for this season, which is probably what's pushing it more towards like a B for me. Um, this is a genre that's usually extremely saturated, so to see it having zero competition is bizarre. All the other series that have any kind of ecchi content, it's been really leaning hard into more of the comedy side of it rather than the fan service aspect. This is the only one that I've seen that's really at all more about the fan service. But even then, I would say it goes relatively comedy aspect on it and seems to have this aversion to having those scenes drag on for more than like 2 or 3 seconds. I'm not sure if that's like a censorship thing that's going on there or what, but given that there are 5 girls in the main cast, and that is the main selling point of this show, the actual amount of fan service that you see popping up in it is shockingly low.
Okay, that can be an interesting bit there.
They will say that they are also trying to do a little bit more like plot and character development as well. But it's just not the right kind of series for that, and most of what they're putting out there for that falls relatively flat. I haven't been terribly impressed with those aspects of it, which is why it's hard for me to even give this kind of a B. The designs are, the girls are cute, but they're all kind of the same girl. Like if you were to look at them without their head, all of their bodies are basically identical.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. So, they have same body, which is not really something that you want in a fan service ecchi enemy.
Yeah.
You want a little bit of variety there. You at least want to have like, your token big boobs character or something. But no, all of them have basically the exact same like D-cup breasts, the same butt, the same build. So the only real difference between them is like their hair and the hobbies and stuff that they've been assigned. So
They all have
character development isn't terribly strong there.
I would with that. I would say in the C, just because we have seen that done better, and
Yeah, objectively, in any other season, I would say it was definitely C tier, maybe even worse. The only reason it's even close to B tier is just because, strangely enough, this is fresh in this particular season.
just lost within the Crunchyroll shuffle.
Yep. Okay. Anything to add from your side? It sounded like you haven't seen this one at all yet.
No, I wasn't even aware of that one. Honestly, is the problem. That's why I'm saying drop it to C, because I'm not hearing any word about this and nothing, and Crunchyroll is not promoting it.
Okay, next up is Yamada-kun to level 999 no Koi wo Shu, or My Love Story with Yamada-kun at level 999.
Yep, this was the gamer romance girl one, I believe. Or
yes, that is correct.
Yep. Boyfriend dumps her in game, or dumps her, then she plays game, meets new boyfriend in game who's top tier, and goes from there.
Kind of, yeah.
Yep.
Or it's more about like the potential blossoming romance between the girl and the other guy. Who it turns out, by the way, the guy who dumped her is a huge fan of because he is a pro gamer. But yeah, I mean, this is a pretty decent, like, upper middle of the road romance.
Yeah. I watched episode 1. It seemed okay. I did like the gamer aspect on that one. Once again, this is a series that I will wait till I hear the end of this and then binge it if I hear it's good or it's okay.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of these romance. It's just week to week is hard for me.
One thing that I do like about it is it explores the gamer aspect in a much more organic way than you usually see in these kind of series. I feel that it feels like it really is just a hobby within the main character's life, and that she's meeting people through it, not just the main love interest, and that it has an impact on her life outside of that primary relationship.
Yeah, which it's nice to see anime finally delve into this. This is one of the reasons it was still on my list of to watch, and the reason I picked up episode 1 because this is a major part of life. Who would have guessed? Like being online, being in games. Heck, being a VTuber, you meet and greet new people, make new friends, make new connections.
Yep. And it's weird in my mind that it's been so heavily ignored, especially in the world of anime, which has so much overlap with the gaming community. You have to figure that the majority of people watching anime are going to be people who are also gamers, at least to some degree.
Yeah. Unfortunately, this is also in the genre of where I think a few people are like me. This isn't their main thing, and they don't like watching it week to week, where they might pick it up on a binge later on.
Also, totally fair. And it's one of those things where I can understand wanting to do it as a binging experience, because otherwise you kind of it kind of feels too slow and you kind of lose momentum, maybe, because it doesn't have the sort of cliffhangers that will really pull you into watching the next episode the way that you get with like a shonen series or something like that.
Yep. Although I will say I did like how they definitely did go interesting on the game animation. They massively differentiated that from the real world because that can be one of the biggest hurdles a lot of these animation shows have when it comes to gaming versus a virtual world compared to the real world when both are animation.
Yeah, a lot of times you see them pop into the game and it's just the same person but with a hat, I do feel like it was a decent
Which will
way
become
that
a
they went about that.
which will become a little more relevant in a little bit later.
Okay.
I would
Next up,
so you put that one at B, right? Because
I
that's
put
about
that
where I
one at
would.
B. If you want it at C, then I can
Oh no,
drop it
I was
down.
going to say I would definitely count that as a B just from how good it does in concept wise
Okay, fair
and
enough.
animation.
Next up was Too Cute Crisis. This was another high dive show, and last time around, at least, you hadn't seen any of it yet.
All right, is this the one where episode 1 was the beach episode, if I remember correctly?
No, that was the Agus Gear expansion thing that we talked about earlier down here in the drop
Okay.
category.
Yep. Okay. This one is also one I don't know. The high dive ones have, unfortunately, mostly escaped me.
Yeah. This is the one where aliens have basically come to destroy the world, and they're doing like a scientific investigation before they make their interplanetary highway, uh, and find out that Earth's creatures are so cute that they could literally cause them to die. Um,
Oh, okay. This was a comedy series that was originally on my radar. I just kind of forgot about it. How is it though? Is it cute? Does the gag hold the anime?
I would say the gag holds better than I anticipated. It's definitely kind of a cute nothing series. It has a little bit of humor to it. Animation quality is not amazing, but they do a decent job of making the animals cute despite that. Yeah, I think it's pretty solidly in like the C or D tier. Nothing to really elevate it into the higher ranks, but it's not a complete dumpster fire, and it's at least an original idea.
Yeah, it just suffers from we have a joke. How can that joke last 12 episodes?
That and not a huge budget to work with, very clearly.
Yeah. Okay, now for the next one, I think I do recognize this one, but I have not been able to find it. I've actually been wanting to watch this sucker. But none of my...
Let's see, what was this one? Oh, okay, yeah. This is, wow, really? They put the English the same as the, okay. Tengoku Daimakyo, but in English it was like, Heavenly Delusion or something like that. Has kind of strong Promised Neverlands vibe to it, but it has like this other plot going on the other side as well. So like there's a group of characters going on outside, and there's a group of characters going on inside, and you're getting both plots and kind of expecting them to intersect at some point. The reason you haven't been able to find this one is it's on Hulu.
Okay, that's where that... Okay. So that
Yeah.
I will probably pick that up here in next week. But, alright, so this is on Hulu, Disney Plus for all non-US citizens, or if you have a good VPN, such as Surfshark or NordVPN. Please sponsor us, please.
Yeah, I'm not actually sure how the VPN stuff works with those, because they might go off of where your credit card is from with Disney Plus. I'm not really sure. But in any case, yes. So it was licensed by Disney and Hulu in US region, Disney Plus pretty much everywhere else. There's a few exceptions like Japan. And some of the South American countries where they have some other service that it airs on. I don't know the details of that. But anyway, it definitely was off to a pretty good start when I watched it. For me, I'm having it sit at kind of like a B tier at the moment, but I'm only through episode 1, so that could change.
Yeah, and this also looks like a series that the ending could make or break it.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Where it goes with its intersecting plot lines and stuff will have a huge impact on how this series plays out. But the animation is pretty solid. The characters seem pretty good off the bat. Hopefully it doesn't go off the rails like some of the other series in the past in this genre have done.
Let's not get a Promised Neverland season 1 with no continuations.
All right. I'm having a hard time recognizing this next one. The thumbnail's a little bit small.
Is that Marginal Services?
I think it might be, yeah. Which would be one that I have not watched yet. Yeah, The Marginal Service.
Yep. Okay, this is one I have. All right, I'm going to go off on a small tangent here, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
All right, so for the general purpose of anyone wanting to watch this, this is aliens came to invade Earth, and cryptids fought them off, and now the UN has to deal with, oh, hey, aliens and cryptids are real, and are living with us. Oh, we should police that. We should definitely police that.
Fortunately,
So
the
you
aliens were defeated by the Loch Ness, Bigfoot, Chupacabra alliance.
I can't tell if you're joking or you actually you see the clip of that happening.
I was joking, but
No, that legit happens. That's like a legit scene. It is one of the reasons I've fallen in love with this one. But I cannot recommend this because of one character.
Oh, that is
because
unfortunate.
once again, this is a show that if you've seen Men in Black, think that, but with more aliens, cryptids, all that. It's a very good cast. The main character is a detective who, while out on patrol trying to get this dude drug ring down, his partner is all of a sudden hoisted up into the air and just pulls a gun to his head and unalives himself. It looks like while he's looking at his partner like, I'm not doing this. Help! 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 And it's that investigation. It's all that. and then he gets invited to the organization, and you meet this eclectic cast of mercenaries, ex-spies, detectives, scientists, medical officers, and pervy chipmunk cryptid thing, a token mascot character, and dotting old man who seems to know more that's going on but doesn't want to tell people, and it's really good. And then you meet his partner, who at one, I, he gives off very much those vibes of, oh, I'm a former detective, but I don't trust you because of like I don't like you because I just don't like you, and it's like, oh, something obviously happened to him. It's like, wait a minute, isn't that the main character story of he lost a partner to these things? And then you get a little further on, and you have this main character like, hey, I have to work with you. I'm your partner. I need to kind of get to know you, get to like you better, get in touch with you. And he throws a spear at his head and tells him, screw you, you don't know what you're doing. I'm not going to explain it. Shut up, and hopefully you won't die. Like, those, they actually do the joke of, oh, you threw the spear. He's like, oh, let me guess, there's a scorpion or a snake behind me. And he looks behind him. It's just a rock. It's like, then blood drips down the cheek. It's like, no, I really don't like you. And it's like, this is the guy you're paired with the whole time. And I hate every moment he's on screen. And he's a main character, so he's almost always on screen.
Yeah, that's not a good quality for a main character.
Yeah, my personality trait is screw you, leave me alone. It's unbelievably irritating. But then at the same time, you have the Chupacabra Loch Ness Sasquatch alliance fighting off literal little green men.
I can't believe I was right about that, by the way.
Yeah, it's honestly, it's really hilarious. And they do there's tons of little gags like that. Because at one point it's like, oh, hey, we need to fight out these guys, but the cryptids are really tough, so we have to use specialty weapons or over the top weapons. It's like, all right, give me the rocket launcher, and he's like, wait, and he shoots it, and it shoots behind him and in front of him. It's like, wait, why does this thing shoot out both directions? And the guy's like, oh, we were having a hard time figuring out which was the front end, so we just made it omnidirectional.
I mean, there's a certain amount of logic there.
It's a rocket launcher, which actually is which I'll actually give them credit for. That is a real thing in military operations, but especially the Chinese rocket launchers. If there's no markings on it, you can't tell which is the front and which is the back.
Unfortunate.
Well, there's a deleted ending to Die Hard 2. It's a fun game of Russian roulette with that.
Oh boy.
Really great if you ever get a chance to watch it. But it's once again, the overall plot is, oh, hey, turns out that drug ring is a group of cryptids using the aliens' remains to grow magic mushrooms to give to people to help another cryptid become the top idol of the world.
What?
It's like I said, it's off the wall. It's absolutely it knows what it's doing. Its animation is fun. It's quirky. If it wasn't for one of the main characters, I would recommend this show, but he just ruins it so horribly. I just can't recommend it to anybody. I have dropped the series.
All right, so this hovers between did not watch and dropped.
I'm sorry for really going off on that one, but it's like,
no, it's okay. I mean, a lot of these, I feel like I've been the one kind of talking endlessly, so it's good for you to have a chance to really give your own strong opinion on a few things.
Yeah, but the slice of life is not my genre. But
and there's been a lot of that this time around.
Yeah. Well, once again, it's so close because if it wasn't for that one character and just how utterly unlikable he was, Like, let me give you one more description. It's like in episode 1, this guy like, all right, hey, you have a good couple leads on this. We're going to go out and do discovery on this. It's like, get to the bar. We're like, well, they're trying to track it down. It's like, all right, how do we tell? I've got to. It's like, I think this guy and this guy look really suspicious. Let's get them. And his partner goes, no, you're stupid. We have a scanner that tells us who's the cryptid here. And his partner's like, well, why didn't you tell me that? Shut up.
That's why. Shut up.
Yeah, it's. And then they finally track him down, and it gets to, all right, I'm going to shoot him. It's like, wait, my pistol doesn't hurt them. And his partner goes, yeah, that's why we have the battle gear. Shows up in full Power Ranger like armor and weaponry, and he's just like, where did you get that? And then, once again, shut up. And,
Should have read the training manual.
well, this is the guy that's supposed to be training him. It's like, the best way I can describe it, it's like, imagine if you started a new job and your trainer said, well, I'll remember your name if you survive the week. Now get to work.
Yeah, sounds about right. Okay.
Which I don't know, maybe.
So I think it's fair to say this could have been maybe like A or something like that, except the main character is awful.
Absolutely. Oh, quiet, Pixel.
Quiet you. American training, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, no, that might be the reason why I hate him so much. I get retail flashbacks.
Mm-hmm. All right. Are you all set on that one?
Yep, I've finally got that out of my system.
Fair enough. Next up is that Kizuna Eye anime, which I am putting firmly in dropped.
I
I
think I'm like.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, it's like, once again, I think we pointed that out with the other anime of, hey, if your people go into a virtual world, please differentiate that, because telling animation from animation can be very difficult.
Among other things, yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to try to watch more of this one to form a stronger opinion on it, but it felt like such a chore to do so that I have not been able to bring myself to do it. And that tells me, I think, everything I need to know about this series.
And this wasn't even what I skimmed through. I sat down and hard watched the entire episode 1, and it was just, it wants to be an idol anime, it wants to be a VTuber anime, it wants to be a training anime, it wants to be a musical anime. It wants to be a lot of things, and it doesn't know how to do any of them right.
Yeah, it definitely suffered from what is this and who is it for? Certainly no one I can think of.
Yeah, no, hard drop on that one myself. I think it might just be rounding out the Kizuna anime name, and just not a lot of other thought in that.
Entirely possible. Alright. Next up is Dead Mount Death Play, which I think you had some strong thoughts on the first time around.
Yep, this is coming from the guy who did Bakino and Durara, so, with that kind of pedigree behind it, I high hopes behind this one. And so far, it's actually delivered. I know you had the complaints about the CGI monsters originally, and I was kind of hoping those were just, they're just going to be oldie in episode 1. But, yeah, no, they come back regularly. They are widely used, and they don't look great.
I would say they're not the most egregious by any means that we've seen this season. But
they're far worse than this season. Yep.
Yeah, they're definitely noticeable. They're not super overtly offensive. I've noticed that quite a bit of the other background elements and things like that are also CG, which in a weird way actually kind of helps composite things together and give the series a sense of consistency.
Yeah, weirdly enough, the CGI fantasy monsters got better once they got out of the fantasy world.
Yeah, like the fact that the CG is as pervasive as it is in the series actually makes it less offensive because it gives it a stronger sense of holistic consistency.
On top of that, it's those CGI when the CGI monsters are just opposed onto the real world. The fact that they don't look right, I would say, it does help them quite a bit more too.
They do also a kind of okay job of compositing, so you don't like it doesn't feel awful every time you see them. They're noticeable. You can tell that they're CG, but they still fit in just enough with the world that it doesn't take you out of the moment.
Yep.
Um,
But as
oh, sorry.
go ahead.
On that note, this series that we talked about earlier, one of the big gripes I forgot to mention that I had with that one is that they, for some reason, decided to use, like, almost Demon Slayer style, camera effects at times, but they kept all the characters completely two-dimensional, so you've got this camera flying through rooms of people that are just like paper cutout dolls, and that's terrible. Also,
Yeah,
in the first 10 seconds of the first episode, they decide to give you an extreme close-up of a very poorly rendered CGI horse as part of the establishing shots to familiarize you with that world. And I mean, if you're only going to be doing that for like 2 seconds, you could have at least sprung for a more nicely polished model or hand animated it just for that brief moment. Just, the first impressions are so important, and that's a horrible way to do those. But, sorry, back to the series at hand.
no problem on that one. But Death Mountain Deathplay, I will say the two things they keep bringing me back because I like this. This felt like a show that could die or succeed just on its premise, just on its characters, and somehow it keeps exceeding my expectations. Honestly, like as a reverse isekai, it's the main character is surprisingly deep for what he is. This isn't a harem. This isn't a lychee. This is a was it 400-year-old necromancer that's like
No, you're already giving spoilers.
and that's in episode 1.
Still, spoiler warnings. Actually, you don't
Okay.
learn. Well, yeah, late in episode 1. But yeah, I mean, I'm only 2 episodes into it, and I definitely feel like it has a lot of potential. I feel like there's a lot of solid twists. I mean, it wasn't a spoiler for me, but it could be for the audience.
Okay. I'm assuming at this point, episode 1, I'm not counting spoilers for, but I'll try to be a little more careful on that one. The characters just keep surprising me. The story keeps surprising me in like all the best ways. It's all the best ways, all the good relationships. No one has felt flat, jarring, or one-dimensional. Mostly, there's been a few throwaway characters that definitely. This character was here for this episode, and now they're gone.
Yeah, and since we've already spoiled that point, I did want to mention that one of the cool twists was the way that they set things up so that in the first episode, they kind of trick the viewer into assuming that the person we're viewing who has changed bodies is the hero that we see at the beginning. Partially by subverting your expectations of the underlying motives and personality of this necromancer character. And I feel like that was very brilliantly done and was a very strong first episode hook for this series.
And honestly, like that hook has stayed tight through. I've stayed up to date on this one, and I have to say it's stayed up and tight and all that. If I had to rank this, I would put this on S. Like
Put it on S?
this. Yeah, I'd put it on S. This show is massively going to have to just wreck itself to get off of that for me. It is consistently one of the two shows that I am not only like happy to see, but I am waiting for that. Like,
Yeah. I probably would have put it on A for now, and then like wait to see where it develops to go to S. But you're a little bit further along, so you're in a better place to kind of make that distinction, I guess.
yeah.
But I think visually, we talked about the CG a bit. It would be I think a failure to not mention though the epic scope of the battle that happens in the first episode at the beginning, and how visually spectacular a lot of that was, and the fact that so much had to go into producing something like that, that you have to give the show some credit in being able to pull something like that off without completely breaking the budget, and have a certain understanding that some of the less than exceptional CG that we're seeing is probably a result of just how much they had to pour into getting those really spectacular scenes in place.
Yep. And as someone who gets further, they do a better job of kind of almost hiding the animations for and I would say the animations, but the low quality of those skeletons further on.
I would say, actually, what's happening is past that opening battle, what we're seeing is that a lot of the times it's actually just 2D animation instead of 3D CG. It looks like they've gone the route of, if they don't need to have the object like move or rotate with the camera in the scene, they hand draw it, which is, in my opinion, definitely a preferable way to do that.
It definitely could be on that, and I'm just seeing that. While they do manage to make it look like the CGI side, but no, this is going to be at the top of my recommendation list. This is one of the two shows I am waiting week to week to. Oh yes, new episode! Yay!
Yeah, from what I've seen, I would definitely say it's one of the most promising series this season. All right. Anything else about that one?
No, that's about it without going into spoiler territory.
Fair enough. And I will mention that we're averaging like 3 solid plot twists per episode in this, which on its own is pretty solid. You don't see that a lot.
No, I would say that consists like. Well, I wouldn't say it stays at. No, it might even stay at 3. Honestly, it's like if you've seen Durarara, if you've seen Bakino, and you're familiar with how much those stories can just turn on their head from some of the most unexpected directions, this series definitely that the author has not lost his talent. He has not his well has not run dry. He knows what he is doing here.
Yeah, and to be clear, each of those plot twists is the sort of thing that could easily be the central premise for any other series. Like, a lot of the series that we're seeing on this list today won't even have one twist of that level in the entire series.
Yep, it like I said, in my book, it is definitely in that it is that top. It would be my favorite series if not for the other shit post that is its competitor.
All right. Next up is My Clueless First Friend. This is another one of those high dive series. And it also falls into that kind of school romance slice of life category. So I know last time you hadn't really looked into this one at all.
I looked into this and I didn't even want to try it.
Wow.
It looked good. It looked okay. It just there is nothing here that would hook me.
That's fair. I mean, it's not really your type of series, so I would say it does a good job of having a unique visual style. The character designs are, definitely differentiated from what you would see in other series. And the central premise of the kind of bullied girl who is, whether she actually is or not, is kind of forced into this like alt goth niche by her classmates, being reached out to by the exchange student, who doesn't have background with any of that or involvement with it, and is completely oblivious to all of it, is definitely cute. It's very character driven. And it's definitely a solid C category. Could end up being a B if it really pulls off the ending. But I think it's pretty middle of the road so far. Definitely a comfort watch, I would say, for those who are interested in this kind of genre.
Okay. Now, I believe the next one, if I'm looking at that correct, unless you have anything more to say,
No, I think that's about it for that one.
is the what was it Bakino Girl or what is the next one was there?
World Die Star. Or Stella of the Theater World Die Star. Okay, well. This one went completely under my radar. I have not watched this one at all.
Okay, I have no idea what this is.
Theater has taken the entire world by storm in the 20th century, and teenager Kokona Otori aims to take the big stage. Performers who shine the brightest are called Die Stars, and for Kokona, her first step into stardom is auditioning for the prominent theater troupe Sirius. As she cultivates her unique sense for the stage, a story of passion and aspiration unfolds in this super theater age. I don't know this to be fact, but I get the distinct sense that this is probably like a gacha game tie-in, and it's basically an idol anime with like a theater skin.
Yep. I think I've heard this. I think I've heard a lot of people say, "Oh, this feels like a gacha game." Then find out, "Oh, it's not." But I have not heard anything good. I'm going to put this on my. Is this on Crunchyroll? Is this another one of those slip under the radar, or is this a high dive?
Apparently, this is Crunchyroll. The trailer for it is a Crunchyroll official trailer, so that tells me it's probably Crunchyroll.
Okay, well, that's really slipped under the radar if it missed both. Well, I'm not too hard to miss, but missing you too. So
yeah. That's not really like I don't really go too into the idol stuff, and especially if it's like gacha game idol stuff. That's usually a big miss for me. So yeah, I probably won't even be giving that one a watch. Okay, next one. This is another one that I haven't seen.
I'm not gonna lie to you. The last two there, I don't recognize.
What is that icon? I don't. Run for Money: The Great Mission.
What?
Run for Money: The Great Mission. Or Taosauchu Great Mission. The time is a future where humans have moved their residence to the moon. In the lunar colony, a game has become very popular. The name of the game is Run for the Money. It is an entertainment survival game in which fugitives are released into a limited area, and if they can escape from the pursuing android hunters until the time limit counts down to 0, they can win a large prize. Some dream of getting rich, while others challenge themselves to test their strength in Run for the Money.
Okay, so Squid Game for convicts. I believe I've heard of this one, but
No, it's not for convicts, though. And, get the sense that these are, high schoolers willingly participating in this for some reason.
okay then. Is this another Crunchyroll shuffle, or is this on a different streaming service?
The source for the synopsis is Crunchyroll, but I don't recognize this icon. I don't know who this is released under. I can't say I've seen it anywhere.
Neither have I, honestly. It's
Toei Animation Fuji TV. I think that's the Toei Animation icon, the more recent mascot logo.
the one where you can actually tell it's a hat.
Yeah.
Actually, I thought that was an apple for the longest time.
I mean, I haven't watched it. It doesn't look good to me either.
It was an interesting premise that looked like it could go places.
The premise to me, I get the vague sense that this might be some kind of toy line tie-in or something like that.
Yeah, but it could be a toy line. It could.
It has Beyblade kind of vibes to it.
Oh, there's gonna be one of those on the list for summer season. Oh.
Although, I'll point out one really weird thing, and you can't really see it very well in the thumbnail, but when you look at the larger version, the characters look 2D animated up near the top, and as you get closer down to their feet, they look more and more CGI.
We might have watched a trailer for that in our original review, and I think the heavy action scenes are CGI, but no, it's.
I will also point out that the main character's name is Sawyer Tamura, so the main character is Tom Sawyer.
Okay. So a one that got lost in the shuffle once more. And what is our last? Well, what's the last one we're actually going to rank? Sort of.
This is one that you actually brought to the table first time around. Which is Rokudo's Bad Girls.
Okay, yeah, this is the one I thought it was. It's that thumbnail looked a little off. So this is the wider spoiler for episode 1 here, but main character gets the demon stealing talisman on himself or dealing repelling talisman, I believe, or attraction.
Well, it's an Omyoji thing, which are demon exorcists. But the specific property is that it attracts bad girls for some unknown reason. I get the sense that the talisman itself was sealed away as something that they had thought was dangerous, perhaps, and
or a mistake.
Yeah.
I call episode 1 on this. I don't mind it. The animation is unique. It's that.
It's bad. Let's just say it's bad.
I don't know if I would call it bad. It's that heavy outline kind of style animation, almost.
Well, okay. So that's with regards to the character designs, right? And the character designs definitely have that kind of heavy outline. And last time around, I defended some of the character designs a little bit as well. But what I will say is the actual animation itself is pretty rough. If you're looking at the movements of the characters and not just the stills, there's not a lot going on there in most of the scenes.
or it gets a little blocky at some points too with how that heavy outline works with all the characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was I picked up that I think I've stated a couple times at this point. The romantic pursuit of, oh, I absolutely don't like you, please leave me alone, and then the stalker syndrome following is not something I enjoy in anime anymore or in any kind of media. And this does give some of that heavy feel sometimes with that. Especially
Yeah.
with the main character is utterly panicking and terrified.
They try to kind of save it with some, like character development bits, but it's also forced that it doesn't really work. This one, I have kind of stuck with it, but it's more as almost like a hate watch than it is out of actual enjoyment.
Yeah.
Like there's
Well,
really
it's-
nothing I can say that's redeeming about this series.
Well, it's the other problem, a series that involves, especially romance, that, oh, hey, there's a charm on it, so that makes everyone kind of like me. That brings up a lot of questions that
A
are
lot of
hard.
morality issues, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of issues on that one. Then, especially if it's like, if the charm's broken, it's like, even then, it's like, well, do you like me because you got to know me because of the charm, or
Yeah, and like they had to make the main character, reject all of their advances because of that, because otherwise it would be them pursuing him and hooking up with him under the influence of basically mind control, which is even worse than them pursuing him against his will, which is, really more for the comedic effect and as the story driver. But it's just not. I don't know. It begin with the whole like high school dropout bad boy whatever thing. Just it's not my deal. It's not my genre. Um.
this
So
is this show is made for a specific group of people who want a comedy, who want a weird action, want I shouldn't say action, but want action as in the romance sense, but and I just don't see who is this, because it's there. Nobody is pretty. Nobody in this show is pretty. They are stylized is the best word I can do for it. And as a stylization, on stills, they're not bad. I do like that heavy look like that. It's just they don't animate them well. There's not a lot of animation. It's
it's stiff. It's blocky. It's like I can't really say anything for the series. It's kind of on the same level as like um this show that we were talking about earlier, the isekai, like Back to Another World again, like where there's just not a lot of love or budget or effort put into making this
which is because
pleasant to look at.
yeah, it's so weird too, because you would expect something with that much stylization in it to have that good animation if you're going to make it look that off out there, but no. And once again, like we said, the story doesn't drive it, the characters don't drive it, the animation doesn't drive it, the style doesn't drive it. It's just a lot of interesting concepts that nothing's brought together on.
I'm not even sure if it has a lot of interesting concepts, really. Like, the characters are even pretty one-dimensional. Even when they get, like, an entire episode to go into their backstory and everything, it amounts to, like, oh, there's this one event that completely defines who I am.
Yeah, I'll fix that next time. Yeah, it's once again, it's just there's nothing here that I like, nothing here that I love.
That said, conversely, there's nothing about it that I absolutely abhor either. But I can't really recommend it to people. Like, it sits at D for me just because I haven't actually dropped it. But I would not tell anybody else you should watch this.
Yep, I would completely agree on that. And
I could just as
well,
easily drop it and feel
yeah.
no guilt about doing so.
Oh, but so far out of this season, as an original season, we are leaning a lot heavily towards the D and C with a lot, or the B and C with a lot more in the D dropped and didn't even watch. Not a lot in the A or even less in the S.
Yep.
Overall, where would you count this season as?
I would say, this is a high volume, low quality season that we're in right now.
Yep, unless. Go ahead, sorry.
And I think unfortunately this will probably be the trend where we will continue to see more like this in the future.
Honestly, it might just be because we had so many continuing anime, the start of new sequels, all that. Because as far as the sequels and continuing series go, we have so many great S ranks in there.
I think that's
With
the
both,
optimistic view on it, and I honestly hope that you turn out to be correct for all of our sakes. But I think that there's a lot of other forces at play here too, some of which I mentioned earlier, but also just even that influence of like Sony and these other big players on this market, I think are going to, not just for the reasons I mentioned earlier, but also because they're going to continue increasing the demand for more and more content, is going to drive a continuation of lots of marginal to low quality shows for a while until either studios are able to catch up to the demand and start producing higher quality content as people get up to speed with their skills, or the audience decides that they've had enough of all the trash that they're being fed and the market collapses.
unfortunately, I don't. That market probably won't be going anywhere anytime soon. Because for anyone not in the know at the moment, in U.S. studios there is a current writer strike, meaning a lot of the big anime coming out is going to have some of the best writing. So this might be the quality we have to go with for a while.
Yeah,
Or we might see,
unfortunate that the competition that it's faced with is nothing.
which could be interesting. On the other hand, we have seen a massive increase in quality from a lot of shows. Like while there is a lot of D tier on here, there's nothing outrageously god awful. There is no X Arm, Neck of the North Star,
Wait a
or
second. You forgot about your bonus addition to the list.
ah, God. I watched it this morning. I'm already blacking out. Yeah, okay. Speaking of that, could you pull that up for me, please? A picture of this.
Yeah, let me see if I can find what you sent me earlier.
Yeah. Because we have a late entry into the season this year by I want to say Chinese studio.
Well, I don't know if it's a Chinese studio in this case. I know that the I think you actually sent that. I know that the characters involved in everything are based off of a K-pop band, so it could be a
Okay.
Korean studio. So yeah, here we go.
Bastions. Now it's some of you might be looking at this and thinking, "Hey, doesn't that kind of look like Miraculous Ladybug?" And if you do a Google search of this image, yes, it does. I actually, while
I was
trying to
just
find a
thinking
good,
the same thing.
while trying to find a good image of this, I did a Google search of the picture I had, and Miraculous Ladybug is everything that pulled up. I will say the animation is very on par with that show if you have seen it before. The downside I have seen is the writing is exceptionally blah.
Well, I mean, it is the adaptation into an animation of a K-pop band, so That's not actually that surprising. I mean, it's kind of the equivalent of like the old MC Hammer animated show, right?
I didn't know that existed.
Oh yes, there was a animation where MC Hammer was a superhero who transformed with the power of his magical talking sneakers.
That sounds about right on par with Mr. T and the T-Force. Oh, but if you are interested in this, the basic premise is the three title characters in there are noodle shop delivery boys who also have superpowers, I think, who dream of becoming a K-pop band, where superheroes are also kind of idols. I don't know. Unfortunately, episode one, which this is a late introduction to the season, so there are only 2 episodes to this show.
I just had to pull this up for everybody's enjoyment.
Oh god, it really does exist.
Oh yes. So with the power of his magical talking sneakers, he becomes Hammer Man, who ironically does not wear sneakers.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I would rather watch this, honestly.
Honestly, it's probably a better watch.
Okay, because while Bastions, I won't say there's anything egregiously bad. The animation, if like I said before, if you've seen Miraculous Ladybug, it is heavy CGI. It is a style of its own. It's not horrifically composited, but these are all stock characters, and you will not see the models change at all.
So, I have not actually seen much of Miraculous Ladybug myself, or any of it really, but I do happen to know a little bit of trivia, which is that it was originally supposed to be a 2D animated show. They ended up going 3D CGI at the 11th hour because specifically of how difficult it was to animate the ladybug spots and get them in the correct place using traditional 2D animation. So in order to keep consistency from scene to scene, and especially when there's like a rotating camera angle or something, they went 3D CG.
Okay. Yeah,
and budget.
Yeah, I can understand that. This show does it just for budget. On top of that, its episodes are, I believe, 15 minutes long, 10 to 15 minute long series. It's, like I said, there's nothing outrageously bad. It looks like cheap animation. It's a story that doesn't bother to explain its world, explain the heroes. It doesn't explain anything going on at all.
I think my principal issue with this show is the fact that it is a Crunchyroll production. I would expect to see something like this on like Netflix, right? But it bothers me very significantly that the money that I am paying to a company to bring me anime specifically is being used to help fund productions like this. I actually take moral exception to that.
Okay. On that note, the one thing I will say is this is a step up from the previous 2 Crunchyroll productions of X-Arm and oh, I'm trying to think about that fantasy one that's was kind of in the Owl House Steven Universe wheelhouse was.
Oh yeah, I know the one that you're talking about, but I don't remember the name of it either. It was like Legendary Defenders or something like that.
And it was just a lower quality version of those shows.
Yeah.
This is a step up from this is definitely a step up from X-Arm. Like, at least the plot is consistent in this one. The characters stay on model and don't look. It's the one thing I will say about this animation and Miraculous Ladybug is once you start watching a little bit of it, or once you watch enough of it, you stop caring. Although I say that when I can go back and watch Beast Wars, and not cringe at it. So I don't know. I might not be the best barometer for bad CGI.
I mean, I can watch Reboot, but to be fair, Reboot was the very first a fully CGI animated series. So, that it gets points for the historical value.
Oh, fun fact, this was actually the same studio.
Yes. Yes, it is.
That studio actually produced a third show that was amazing. But back up this, I did not like episode 1. It's coming once again. It's coming out mid-season to start with. It's 10 to 15-minute episodes, and episode 1, while it does kind of like, okay, here's the characters, here's what they do, and I don't actually know why they do it. I was trying to think about that. It's like, I know who the characters are, I know what they do, I just don't know why they do it.
Okay, I have to point out one thing that has caught my attention as well. One of the principal selling points of boy bands, I think it is fair to say, is their looks. Is that not accurate?
Yeah, it could be, especially a lot of the K-pop ones.
Yeah, the K-pop, J-pop style boy bands. You see it a lot of times with the US boy bands as well, like Hanson and NSYNC and stuff like that, right? They have a very specific target audience, and that target audience is a primarily female and usually younger audience, and they are targeting a specific demographic with a specific set of looks that are literally engineered to attract that audience. And as a property that is intended to tie into and promote a boy band, I feel that this, off the bat, just looking at this promotional material, does an awful job of that. Because if we look at the character who's directly in the front, in the primary focus of this shot, look at how ugly that is. Just look at that mouth. It's deformed.
Okay. The pitch I see that got this show greenlit is how close it looks to Miraculous Ladybug. Which, I don't know. Could you pull up a picture of that, or at least
Sure.
the main boy character who's supposed to be a model of that, Chad Noir or Cat Noir? And if we can see like a comparison against that character's model against these guys, because I feel like this show is, oh hey, look at how big Miraculous Ladybug is, look at how big that target audience is, which is primarily in that what would you say, 10 to 16-year-old girl. I don't know if I'm shooting too low at that one.
Yeah, I don't know. Oops. I don't know exactly the age bracket, but that seems reasonably.
Teenage girl, yeah.
Yeah, tween to teen. Okay,
like this is the show it's trying to ape.
But I want to point out, this actually looks considerably better. Now, grant you, this screenshot is probably from one of the later seasons of the show after they, improved a lot of things. But
that does look more like promo art, but once again, we are against. I'm not sure if that's promo art for this or a bad clip, just because
this actually is promo art.
Yeah, that is the problem there, and it's like the general comparison between the two of how off those look compared to the other two. But
no, this is supposed to be BTS, the biggest K-pop band.
Yeah, that was one of the other points I was going to make. I think it's like a 7-band group too.
Yeah, and this only makes that more tragic because, if any band property could have gotten the tie-in for them to be decent, it's probably them. They're worldwide renowned. They're well known everywhere. Like they're big enough to be a household name in the U.S. And by comparison, this is very much a travesty, a train wreck.
Yeah.
Let me pull up a little bit more of the promo art here too.
Yeah, because I believe there was a shot with the full boy band with their models in front of them.
There is, yes. That's one of the ones I'm gonna pull up here. So, I mean, this doesn't even look like. Okay, what we're seeing here, I've seen action figures that look better than this. So this doesn't even look like it would sell action figures well, by today's, standards.
Let's see if we got a bad promotional pick at least.
So
which I don't.
This one looks a little better, but notably, that character is not present.
No, that's the one on the left.
It's the one on the left here? See, you
Yep.
can't even tell, which is also a problem. Okay. And then, let me pull up the other one.
Yeah, because it definitely looks more pink in that one. It's still him.
Yeah, so
Why? I mean, I'm kind of because there were two other characters they introduced but they seem more like either villains of the week or these are the bumbling, not good heroes. And it's nobody from this group.
what I can tell you is none of these characters do a good job of representing any of these people. In any sense.
I watched this morning, so this is not like I watched this a while back and can't quite remember stuff. I don't remember. Like there was a character who was the main character-esque person. I can't remember who it was though. Like I want to say it was the guy in red, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, that doesn't even stick with you, huh? So, okay, there's one other point of comparison that I want to draw here. Let me search this up real quick.
Because if you, like I said, once again, if you want to take that picture and juxtapose it against the miraculous ladybug, because the styles can't be this similar and that not be intentional.
Okay. Let me see if I can find a good picture of this. Alright, here we go.
I'm kind of worried at what you're about to show us.
Actually, that's not even the right ones, I don't think. Hang on. Here we go. Okay. Alright. So,
Oh yeah.
I want to point out this is not the first K-pop band tie-in with a CGI animated character, okay? KDA Pop Stars came out for League of Legends like 10 years ago now?
Don't say that. It makes me feel so old.
I know, right? But the fact is it was, I think, actually the 2011 League of Legends Cup that they premiered this. And although these characters were, admittedly significantly stylized, these character models that they came up with and designs way outstrip that by I can't even express the difference. Like, compare this to this.
Yeah. And if you wanted to
Jeez.
pull up that the Ladybug one against again, it's like look at that scale there between like one like
Yeah.
that to that against that. To be fair, a little piece of me wants to say the league comparison's almost unfair because
But
that
is
is
it? Like, I understand where you're coming from. Like, I feel the same way, right? But at the same time, is it? Because KDA was like almost an unknown K-pop band before, at least in the US, before they did this tie-in, right? Whereas BTS is a world-known property, and there's no reason why they couldn't have gotten a better tie-in that promoted them in a way that was actually beneficial to their brand. Like, this is actively detrimental to the appearance and the selling point of these individuals.
oof, yeah. It's like I didn't want to compare them just for how outrageously good all league animation has generally been, but
But the
yeah,
fact of the matter is, it's this is something that they did as a different tie-in 10 years ago that was successful and that looked good. And there's no reason why 10 years later they couldn't have found a partner that could make this work for BTS, who could have done the same thing for BTS that League did for KDA, right?
no, yeah, no, it is a 1-to-1 comparison, and it's
And in that
ugh.
1-to-1 comparison, they are failing miserably
It's the
in like every possible metric.
oh, what is this? It's the Uber Doge dog against the wimpy
It's
failing.
like Chad Doge.
Yeah, the Tad Doge against the Wimpdo. It's that meme almost.
Yeah. So, like, not only is this actively detrimental, but this had to have one of two major purposes, right? Either they were trying to use it to promote the band BTS, which, if that's the case, it's failed miserably, right? Because it doesn't represent the members, it doesn't look good, it if anything, waters down their brand and devalues it, except they haven't even successfully tied it to that brand, other than the fact that they made this poster with the characters in it.
Yeah,
But there's
I wasn't
nothing
aware of
about
that.
this that makes you think, oh, it's these people.
Yeah, very much because that was what you saw of this franchise, and you were like, oh, what is this show actually? And it's like, no, it's like these are these guys.
And the
And
other potential thing that they were trying to do was set up merchandising for these alternate versions of the BTS members, but it's clearly not going to be successful on that front either.
yeah, that the one thing I could say on the merchandising side of that, if you have seen the Ladybug toys, that's actually not far from what the quality is on those.
Even
And those
so,
things,
but you've got this that's driving people towards the fantasy of owning those toys to be representative in some manner of these characters, right? Here, you've got these, which at best look like the cheap plastic junk that they're trying to sell.
hey, at least they're not false advertising.
I guess? But in any case, I can't see there being a lot of sales there. And adding to all of that is the fact that, traditionally at least, right? Superheroes as a genre, especially male superheroes, are targeted at a young male shonen type audience. But that's not the audience that BTS targets as a group.
No.
These people are targeted at the opposite audience.
Which might have been one of the problems and why they went with that animation style to begin with.
Yeah, I don't know if maybe like they saw the problems early in production and said, let's cut our losses and just, go with the bare minimum. But that has its own, impact on your brand.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I can see the connection here being, okay, what's our target demographic? Teenage girls. What is one of the most popular long-running shows that targets teenage girls? And unfortunately, that is Ladybug, which gets off with being stylized in what it is. And
But okay. Here's where I have to back up for a second and bring out the reminder that for all my lack of knowledge of Ladybug, it is not a superhero show. It is a magical girl show.
Oh no, it's a superhero show through and through.
How do you figure?
Okay, that this can be a weird juxtaposition because of the semantics of what's a magical girl and what's a superhero show. What would be your big difference on those two?
Okay. So I understand that there's a certain amount of overlap because you have things like Kamen Rider and stuff like that have like henshin transformation scenes, right? But first and foremost, yes, this is a show that follows a female character protagonist, right? She, I think, actually does have some kind of companion critter, but I'm not totally sure about that.
Yep, no, she does.
Yeah. Which, again, that's a standard magical girl trope. She transforms into her magical girl state. She has the presence of Cat Noir, who is basically the Tuxedo Mask character.
That and I would say no, they are a direct partner. They all both show up at the same time and do fight as equals. This is not he jumps in last minute and saves the day. It's very much sometimes he will get there first on the scene, sometimes she will get there first.
Okay, so maybe okay, I'm using the archetype, right? But you're right in that Tuxedo Mask does have those certain connotations to him.
You will the biggest difference I will say there is you don't see an episode focused on Tuxedo Mask or the shining male character. Cat Noir in this is very much a main supporting character. While he isn't the main character, you will see entire episodes dedicated to nothing but him on his regular life and his superhero life.
I see. Now, also, it is my understanding that these characters are, in fact, originally burglars of sorts, like the drawing a blank on the term for those.
Burglars?
No, not. I already said burglars, but no. There's a detective genre trope of the master thief.
Oh, okay, yeah, the Lupin kind of style.
Yeah.
Yep. No, this is a weekly big bad creates a new monster, sends it out, and Cat Noir and Ladybug have to fight it.
Yeah. So okay. Well, it's understandable that there are, some overlaps between your Big Bad of the Week Sailor Moon and your Big Bad of the Week Power Rangers type shows. And there is some blurring in those genres. Nonetheless, I would say that show is firmly a magical girl show. Even if it's focused on the combat portion, the fantasy that's being sold there is a specific fantasy of that kind of female empowerment transformation fantasy.
I could see that. The other big thing I would say against it is they do actually get a full team of heroes in there that do shuffle between guys and girls. I think fairly evenly, actually.
Ah, okay. Well, that would be coming up against the limits of my knowledge of the show for sure.
It's not something that happens to the later seasons, but it is like, oh, let's see if I can.
Well, if it doesn't happen to the later seasons, I think it's also fair to say that that's not really core to the show's values either.
Yeah, it could be on that end. But I could definitely see where you're coming from on that end. And the problem is this show does straddle that line fairly well. The only other big determinant I can say is they do refer to themselves as superheroes. But once again, it's a Western show, so you're going to get that anyways.
Yeah, there's nobody, with a few very recent exceptions that are explicitly making reference to their anime fandom, you're not going to see Western shows refer to characters as magical girls. Star versus the forces of evil notwithstanding.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, like that's what I'm trying to get at though. Like this show is intended to appeal to a completely different audience than this show is built to appeal to.
Yeah. Like I said, the argument I have is it's like with the boy band aspect, the boy bands are marketed to that teenage girl audience, and that could be the thought process behind why they made this show the way they did, which is also Ladybug's audience. It's like I said, without knowing the backroom stuff, it's impossible to tell. This is all speculation.
I still would argue that that is not Ladybug's audience. Ladybug's audience is not the superhero genre audience.
Yeah.
If you look at who is interested in this show and who buys the toys and stuff, you're going to be looking at young girls primarily.
Yeah.
But if you look at your standard superhero genre stuff, that's mostly young boys.
Yeah.
And this, it misses the mark in that sense, is all I'm saying at the end of the day.
We're just
it's sleek, that and stylized that fits their drip, and that would have landed way better.
An arcane version of these guys would have been absolutely amazing, but there's only so much hope in animation quality you can save in the world nowadays. It feels like.
Well, anyway, that was a lengthy diatribe, but
somehow you ended up defending this show more than I thought. Or at least I should say I ended up defending the show more than I thought I was going to.
Indeed.
Either way, do not recommend at all. It's pop in, get a view if you're curious, but no. I might catch another episode. Once again, they are only 10-minute episodes. So they are.
It's a low investment point.
Yeah, they are thankfully brief. I think that wraps up for this.
All right.
Mid-break.
Well, yes, that's been a lot of talking. Thank you for everybody who joined us on this journey and these lengthy diatribes. And I hope that this is helpful for anyone who's taken a look to see the ones to watch and the ones to avoid for spring 2023.
Yep. Do you have a raid person, or would you like me to promote it?
Let me see who I have available.
Because I do have one person I wouldn't mind raiding it out to.
Sure, we can go with your pick.
Okay, I'll send it to you in the that. Why that slowly just gets online. Over to Ainz.
Ainzio Muramoto, who is playing Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom.
Yep, I hung out with him. He's been. Yep. Before we raid out, Yuki, would you like to mention anything you have going on here in the next week or so?
Things I have going on. Well, I think I can't remember if it was before we started or not, but today is my 1 year Twitch anniversary for having become affiliate. So yay!
Yeah,
Coincidentally,
congrats on that one.
thank you.
Nope,
I'll
nope,
probably be playing
There it
a
is.
little bit of Breath of the Wild later tonight. But actually, my upcoming week is going to be a bit more sparse than usual because I have Fanime Convention this coming weekend, which I will plan to be attending, and I have developed a little bit of promotional material that I'll be dispersing at the convention.
Yep. As for me, while we are at the knife's edge of affiliate for myself, but it's 2.8. I'm sitting here. It's
Well, I've been trying to
it's
alert you
irritating.
whenever I can to help get those numbers up.
And I do appreciate everyone who has been helping, everyone in the community on that end. On that note, it is actually my 1 year anniversary for the start of my streaming career, period.
Congratulations!
Technically, it will be tomorrow, the 22nd, but because job and I need food, we will not be doing that. Instead, we'll be doing it on Tuesday, replacing my Tactical Tuesdays. We will be doing a 24-hour run of the Tears of the Kingdom game. I will be starting it fresh. I have kept my blinders on. We will be starting that morning, and we will be going till the following morning, barring I can not pass out.
Gotta get the Red Bulls and 5-hour energies and whatever else all stocked and ready to go.
Oh, I'll bring out the heavy duty stuff. Midnight rolls around, and I don't think I'll be physically able to sleep.
All right. Well, we'll try to all pretend that we may not have just become accessories to any kind of crimes. And
everything I do is provably legal. But,
all
right.
Thank you very much for taking the time to go through all this with me, Agent. And I will probably do a season wrap up when the season ends. And who knows, maybe we'll continue doing these and do like a summer season when that starts up as well.
Yep, I have fun. We just need to work out a little bit more scuff.
Yeah, well, there's always scuff. But the more we can iron out, the better.
Yep. All right. Have you all later? Everyone give Irons a good old hi. Later. Ciao.
Bye-bye, everybody. Matane!
That's all for this episode. If you enjoyed, please like, comment, subscribe, or join me on Twitch or Twitter. Hope to see you next time on Yukikaze Gaming. Matane!